Hey, what's going on, everyone? Gonna steal those tech talk tonight since he's having some issues. Um, Give me a second here. I'll get everything set up and running, y'all. All right. Hey, Bubba. I don't know, his computer crashed, locked up the program, so he had to quit the stream, and so that's what he's going to join in here in a minute whenever he gets his computer rebooted. What's up, Brandon Skelly? How are you? I don't think I've ever seen you on here before. Bubba, you going to come in and talk tonight, or just kind of hanging around? One day staring at my corals. Oh, I wish I worked all day. I had to go babysit welders all day. Bunch of overgrown children. Oh, some people. What am I going to do with you, Bubba? What am I going to do with you? All right, I need this. Obviously, this is the most important, Bubba. Come on. Do what I do. Piss the wife off. She'll leave you alone. Brandon, what kind of tank do you have? I don't think I've ever seen your tank. Boom, 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 boom. I got the house to myself tonight. The wife is out of town. Just me and the dog. Oh crap. I spoke too soon. That's gotta be her. Yep, that is her. 65 tall, 6-month old. Gotcha, gotcha. I hate when you do that sometimes, Bubba. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I didn't even get to see what you had typed. Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Lemon peel. Can't seem to get him to eat. What all have you tried? What have you tried feeding him? I know mastic is good too. What's up, chimp? What you doing tonight, bud? Spirulina brine shrimp bloodworms. Live baby brine. Anything live would be good. The eggs, fish eggs from Reef Nutrition, and I think Rod's Foods does one too, or mastic. I know a lot of people use mastic for picky fish. Yes, real oceanic eggs. What's up, Davis? How are you tonight, bud? Ooh, Aptasia. That's easy fix though. Peppermint shrimp, filefish. Supposedly a Molly Miller blenny will eat Aptasia. I don't know about that one or not, but it's what I've read in a couple places. What's up, AL? How you doing tonight, bud? Oh, I'm good, bud. Relaxing. I'm about to go grab a bottle of Crown and have me a little drink. We'll chat with y'all. The dog's actually being good, not digging through all my stuff in my office. As long as I don't lose half the coral in my tank, it'll be a good week. Temp plus or minus two. Plus or minus two at that range really shouldn't affect the fish that much, Brandon. Not saying it absolutely can't, but it shouldn't. I mean, normally that's not that big of a deal. What's up, K Town? Ooh, $300 for a Red Sea 34-gallon all-in-one. Red Sea Max 34-gallon. Yeah, I mean, when I had my Predator tank, it would go anywhere from 78 to 82, and it wouldn't hurt anything. They would eat. Softies were fine. I had the easier softies. What's up, Greg?
Hey, what's happening?
Oh, not much, buddy. Not much.
That's sucks that O can't get it working, but
Yeah.
glad one of you guys did.
Oh, yeah. I'm
So,
just running the simple one. I mean, I can run OBS. Oh, I don't have any problems with it, but I've got a gaming laptop, so I think I got a little more oomph than what O's got.
yeah, I mean, I know he's got a Mac.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what software he's running, and
Yeah.
I know I always do this from my phone. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you can't host them. It's only downside.
Yeah. So, so what you got going on with your stuff?
Oh, pissed everything off. I'm probably going to lose half the tank, it's looking like. I don't know if I'm going to lose it or if it's just going to be pissy for a little while. My salinity had crept up pretty high. And that's what I'm sitting here looking. My trachei's done. I mean, it's half stripped already.
Okay, how high did it get?
029, 028, 029.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, it's more likely to typically high salinity will affect fish way before it'll affect your corals.
Okay.
Corals actually a lot of times thrive on the higher salinity, simply because they hold on just.
Yep.
Simply because the elements are higher.
Gotcha.
So all your, alkalinity, salinity, your magnesium, your calcium, what should all be higher if you're running a higher salinity. So they typically thrive.
Okay. I've got a favia that looks pretty rough. The trachea looks pretty rough. It could either be the salinity, or I had a baby snail in its mouth. So I don't know if maybe it tried to eat the snail and the snail died and nuked it.
Possible.
And then I've got
all of those meat style corals are and lobos and all those are really tricky because I mean they'll try to eat anything.
Yeah.
And anything that comes near it, they'll attempt to. I realized finally that that's how I was losing all of my Bergia nudibranchs. And I'd have them, and then I'd catch them at night, and then all of a sudden they were gone. So I bought more. Did it again. Well, one morning I got up and I noticed the lobo had basically was eating one, and I used the turkey baster and blew it off, and he got away. But now I can't find him anymore. So it is what it is. It wasn't meant to be to get rid of those aptasia.
Yeah, the trachea pisses me off too. It's the bright green one, not just the mottled green. It's like the metallic neon green.
Right.
What's up, Paul? And I mean it looks like it's going to strip pretty bad, unless it's just receded because it's pissed off from that snail. I dug the snail out of its mouth because it was pretty good wedged in there. So.
Gotcha.
I mean, he might have tried to eat it and it got stuck. So maybe he'll come back.
Right.
Like I said, that favia looks pretty rough. I mean, it's discolored even. It's not fluffy at all, and it's discolored. It's starting to turn white on the very top ridges.
Now, is it possible that something stung the favia?
No, it's in between zoas.
Okay, then yeah.
The closest acan is, I don't know, the width of my hand, 5 inches away, and they're just frags. They're not full colonies.
Right.
And then I've got some little light white spots on a couple of my SPS.
Huh. Well, I mean, bring the salinity down. Just don't bring it down too fast. Maybe go to 2.7.
I did like 2.75. I was going to do 2.6 and then 4.5. I'm shooting for in between 4 and 5.
Okay. Yeah, I normally run at 2.6. typically. That's just.
I'd shoot for 2.5, and I had the refractometer I got when I had bought my 75 used from the guy. So I mean, I've had it for a year and a half, and it's a really big scale though. It's obviously not an aquarium refractometer; it's a saltwater refractometer.
Right.
And so it's really hard to see because the numbers are so small because it's such a long scale.
Right.
So I went and bought. I mean, this is just the Petco one because that's the only people around me that were open that had one yesterday, last night when I ran. And I mean, it's easy to read. It was dead on out of the box. I used my calibration solution. So
good luck.
It'll last until birthday. I think my wife asked me what I wanted for my birthday. I told her one of the salinity pens.
Just be careful with those. I know they can have interference, so you really need to use that cup that's on the end of it. Otherwise, they kind of can read funky.
See, and some people have told me stick them in the tank and ditch the cup because the in the tank matches their refractometer.
Yeah, you're not supposed to because there can be electrical interference.
Right, from the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and even doing it in a cup can sometimes give you a weird reading because it's not centered in the cup. You can see fluctuations moving the pen around in the cup. The way when you have that cup on the end of the pen, it does it in its proper location. So because these things you're not able to calibrate them, I think it's best to use them in the fashion that they were designed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
If you're really wanting what the manufacturer considered an accurate reading, I think that's the way you got to do it. So I know a lot of people like to take shortcuts, but this isn't the hobby to do that in.
Right. So I'm just catching up on chat real quick too while you're talking. I'm listening though. Would you go with the pen or the Milwaukee? I like the idea of the pen that I can wipe it off. I don't have to dump it out.
We wanted to know accuracy. I got one of the very first pens that came in. We have a deal with our club has a deal with Coral View, and basically we buy raffle items.
Yeah.
From them at wholesale. So when those salinity pens came out, we were quick to get them. And the first thing we wanted to do, is it really accurate? And it was funny, so my buddy came over and he had it, and he tested my water, and then I tested it with the refractometer. And I said, okay, what do you got? And he's all, well, I have a number. You have to figure out what you have. So you tell me what you have. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I told him, it was spot on 026. And he shows me the number, spot on 026. So at that point we were like, okay, this is pretty reliable. Yeah.
The only thing that troubles me about the Coral View one is that you cannot calibrate.
Correct. And the reason they say you cannot calibrate is because the method they're using to test it isn't calibratable. There's never any reason to calibrate. It's always going to read it because it's not. I don't exactly understand it.
Right. I mean, if they're using electrical conductivity, it's got to be calibrated. If they're using...
Yeah, they're not using... as far as I know, they're not using conductivity.
Well, I say that, we used to use a lot of testing equipment at work that we didn't have to calibrate. We just had to check it. And then if it was bad, you threw it away. Right.
Yeah.
Or it blew up on you.
I talked with Jake at Reef Builders, and he was pretty pleased with them.
Okay.
As you know, he can be pretty critical on certain items.
Yeah, I like watching his videos.
So I know there's a lot of people who think he's biased, but I can tell you there's a lot of companies who said that they will no longer give him product because he's given them bad reviews. So I know for a fact he's not biased.
Right.
I mean, because if he doesn't like something, he'll tell you, or he won't say anything at all. It's one or the other. But if you usually what happens is people keep pushing him for a review, and he doesn't want to do a review because it was bad, and they keep pushing for it.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, here it comes, and they're disappointed. So I think I was listening to another stream earlier today, and they were talking about people giving bogus reviews, and I told I don't think anyone gives bogus reviews. I think you just never hear bad reviews because you'd rather not say anything than say anything bad.
Right. Yeah, because then some people say, "Oh, well, you're just negative and this and that."
It's not about that. I mean, I think that a lot of these guys give honest reviews. The problem is they don't let you know when there's a product that they didn't like. That's the only complaint I think that people can have on these people reviewing products. Or there's another complaint in that they don't really have the technical knowledge to understand the product in the first place to be doing a review. There's a lot of people like that. So, skimmers is a big one. A lot of people don't really know what makes a good skimmer. I mean, you can say all day, okay, well, it skims constantly. I had a friend who had a 12-inch Bubble King skimmer, and he thought it was the greatest, and then it kind of slowed down, so he went and got a 8-inch. He ended up getting some 8-inch skimmer. He's like, oh my god, it skims so great. You ought to see how much it pulls out. And I said, yeah, it's not pulling out that much. He's, oh yeah, it is. It fills up the cup all the time. I go pour the cup in, go pour that 8-inch cup in your 12-inch skimmer's cup.
Right. It's basic volumes.
Yeah. I said, when you got a 12-inch diameter cup, it takes a lot to register.
Yeah.
To look like it's doing anything. So,
I mean, it could skim better if there is no skimmate getting to the 12-inch cup because it's too large of a neck.
And I would even argue that because it may not be going in the cup, but the gunk is still sticking to the
skimmer,
to the mouth. Yep. And all of that is removed when you clean it.
Right.
So
it may stay there for months, but it's not like it can go anywhere because it's just going to bubble back out or
exactly.
Up. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, for me, skimming, the most important thing in skimming is aerating the tank, keeping the oxygen levels high and the CO2 levels low. I think it's kind of like akin to the lungs of your tank. It's the way your tank breathes.
Yeah. I argued with a store owner a while back, one of the local shops, because he was trying to sell my brother a skimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's a bad skimmer, but I was pushing a different brand. I was pushing the Aquasea EV 120 for his tank.
Great skimmer.
Because I had the EV 180 on my 75 Predator.
Mm-hmm.
And he was arguing, well, it's not as good of a skimmer. It's not as good of a skimmer, blah, blah, blah. They're not as efficient, this, that, and the other. I said, okay, but it's not as efficient. I said, what does that matter? You burn a little more power, so you're going to spend, an extra 20 cents a month? Mm-hmm. You have to move more water through it to get the same amount of skimmate, but you're processing a lot. You're moving a lot of water through it.
Right.
So, gallon per gallon of flow, it doesn't pull as much skimmate. But that skimmer will pull as much as a 120-gallon rated needle wheel skimmer.
Right. I used to have a EV 400 and then later upgraded to an EV 1000. And
they're monsters at moving water and processing the waste out of them.
Absolutely. And I ran a Mag 36 on that EV1000.
And I like them because you can't break them. You buy a pump, you put it on.
Exactly.
That's the only part that can break is the pump.
But here's the most interesting thing that I talked about with people. And people were like, I can't believe you run that skimmer 380 watts. And I'm like, that skimmer doesn't pull 380 watts. Sure it does. That mag pump, it pulls 380 watts. No, it doesn't. Not when it's on the skimmer, it doesn't. If it's off the skimmer, it will. But added head pressure, people don't realize AC pumps, the more head pressure you add to them, the less power they draw because they're doing less work. They're moving less water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big key. That Mag 36, instead of 380 watts, it was pulling 175. So when you started comparing that with some of your largest needle wheel skimmers, which were rated for over 1,000 gallons, all of a sudden they were pretty close because you needed multiple pumps on those when you're talking over 1,000 gallons on a needle wheel. So yeah, there's different things that a lot of people don't realize that happens. Pumps especially. I see a lot of people going to DC pumps thinking they're going to save wattage, and you'd be surprised. It's because people don't understand that part about AC pumps. Pump, the less water they pump, the less wattage they consume. It's completely opposite to our minds thinking, where with a gasoline engine, for instance, if it going gets tough, you just give it more gas.
Right.
Which is DC pump thinking. And that's what you do. You turn it up. But the AC pumps, they don't react the same. So the energy savings is not what people think it is. And
right, because the DC pumps vary voltage.
Correct.
They ramp up voltage to increase their output, but an AC pump is constant voltage, constant current.
Correct.
It's just creating a back pressure on it.
Yep.
What's your background in, Greg? Work-wise?
Well, work-wise, I work for the probation department.
Okay.
So I do restitution investigations.
Now you're getting into EE and physics there, so.
No. I mean, it's some math, but that's about basics.
Yeah, basic electrical engineering, though.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't my strong point, but because I know so many people in the industry, they've explained it to me.
Right.
And, a lot of these companies, like Aquasea was down here. I did a lot of work with him, doing prototypes.
Did they go out of business?
Like that. So, yes. Effectively, yes. Cobalt Aquatics bought them. But I don't even know if they're still producing skimmers. I think they bought the website.
Yeah. I haven't seen them come out with anything new recently, and that's kind of what I've read, that they're out of business.
Yeah, no. As far as I know, they closed the doors and they sold the assets to Cobalt.
Yeah.
But they were getting bored. There was really only what killed them was the energy prices going up in California.
Ah, gotcha.
They were a very common skimmer before that happened. We were paying 8 cents a kilowatt, and then all of a sudden we were paying 30 cents a kilowatt. And all of a sudden, hey, you know what? It made more sense not to use an oversized skimmer. So I dropped down, to needle wheel skimmers, 40 watts versus the 175. Yeah, it didn't skim as well, but I was fine with that.
Right.
Because of my bill. And our bills here in California are tiered. So the more power you use, the more you pay.
Right. And I'm glad we don't have that here. It's just flat.
Yeah.
We also don't have a lot of power draw down here. I mean, the biggest power draw are the refineries. That's where most of our power goes.
Wow.
They're building new refineries in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
They're expanding them, and their energy is the big power company down here. They're building 3 new nuclear plants over there.
Oh, so you're in Louisiana?
Yeah, I live in Baton Rouge. I'm from New Orleans.
Okay. I just got myself a Catahoula.
Mm.
You know what that is, right?
Oh yeah, good luck. They can be
Yeah,
nasty.
I just got her.
They're good. They can be really great dogs, or they can be really bad dogs.
Yeah. Well, so far he's good.
I had a buddy had a big female. She got pretty big, and they're pretty. I like them, but she ended up having skin problems and coat problems.
Oh.
And he never could figure out what it was. And I guess because her skin was so sensitive that she started snapping at kids.
Oh, gotcha.
And so he ended up having to put her down. I mean, she looked like she had mange, but it wasn't mange.
Gotcha.
I took her to the vet. She was allergic to something, and he tried even the holistic foods and.
Mm-hmm.
But it just.
Well, he's been pretty good. I kind of stumbled upon him. My mother-in-law needed a dog, and she found a breeder out in Oklahoma, and they had 2. And she's like, okay, well, can we do a deal for both of them? So I ended up with 1.
Let's see here. I'm going to screen share this. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, this is a Catahoula.
Yep. That's
and
it.
they were originally bred in Louisiana.
Really cool dog. They got
Very
webbed
pretty.
feet.
Yep, they're hound dogs. They're water dogs. They're great hunting dogs. I have a couple buddies that have them as hunting dogs. And they are hunting dogs, though. I got a couple buddies that use them as cattle dogs, too. They own a cattle ranch
they're
together.
Really good with herding.
Mm-hmm. They're great herding dogs. They're great hunting dogs. But the ones that have hunting dogs are around family, kids, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The 2 guys that have them for herding dogs, nobody goes around them.
Yeah.
They stay in kennels like, I don't know, 500-600 yards behind the house.
Yeah.
Their own kennels, and they only come out to work. And only the 2 brothers can handle them.
Right. Well, I'm hoping he ends up being a good dog. I think he will be. So.
Good. Yeah, they have. I love their eyes.
Mine doesn't have the blue eyes.
Oh, he doesn't?
No, brown eyes.
Some of them have brown, blue, 1 and 1.
Print. He's mostly black with a brindle feet and legs. So
more like this one here, just reversed.
Yeah. The legs are more brindle.
Right, body's more black.
My mother-in-law's is completely leopard print. It's pretty cool.
You pay premium for that too.
Yeah, she paid, and that's why we got the reject.
Mm-hmm. What did hers run, if you don't mind me asking?
She paid, I think, $350, and we paid $250.
Yeah, that's not too bad even.
No, that's what. But that was why she went all the way to Oklahoma to get it.
Yeah,
because it was every place else was like $600, and so forth. So she sent my niece to Oklahoma to pick it up and bring it back to Cali. So she just grabbed a couple of dog carriers and came back with them. So, does anybody have any reef questions in the chat?
Yeah, I'll be back in like 2 minutes, Greg.
Okay.
I can't give you controls. I just gotta go let.
Okay. Well, everybody, I don't really know what to talk about. I can't see the chat. So I'm going to go try to come over to get my computer so I can see the chat. If you guys have any questions or anything, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. second. I don't even know the... Hopefully Jeeves comes back soon, because I don't know what his channel's name is. Because I got the link direct. Okay, I found it.
I was just getting on it to read it to you.
Oh, thanks.
Because I had a question for you.
Yeah.
What's in the chat there? But did you get stitched up?
No, I did not end up getting stitched up. It took almost an hour to stop bleeding.
Yeah. But did you go get checked, or it stopped and you were good?
It stopped and it split open the next day, but it's fine now. It's completely fine.
Good.
I mean, it still hurts if you press on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
It was deep, though. I think it hit a vein or something, because it just would not stop.
Yeah.
And it was a small hole. I'd say it was maybe slightly less than a quarter inch.
Wow.
But it went in probably a good half inch.
Crazy.
I mean, it was a nice shard that looked like a small shark tooth.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So, what steps would I take to combat aptasia? Yeah, that's a tough one. Honestly, there's one thing I would say I would not. There's a couple of things I would not use. Would not use an aptasia wand. Those things that electrocute them. Because what happens is you just end up with a bunch more little ones. I also would not use a laser, because if you don't get it all, you end up with a bunch of little ones. I'm very fond of the natural method of the Bergia nudibranchs. They just take a while, and it kind of isn't a good thing if you have corals like lobophilia and other corals that will eat them. But on an SPS tank, for sure, that's a good one. Those aptasia eating filefish are good, but then those are the type of things that are going to possibly go after other things after they've finished off the aptasia. I think my favorite is a copper band butterfly. When you have a copper band butterfly in the tank, but you got to have a decent sized tank, you just seem to never have aptasia in the main tank, and realistically, that's really what matters. Nobody cares if they're in their sump. Other than that, if you're going to take other methods, I wouldn't do things like the Joe's juice. Just get yourself some kalkwasser, mix it into a milky substance, and suck it up with a testing syringe, and just start laying it. Turn your flow off, lay it on thick. That will kill them.
Yeah, I've used Aptasia X, which is basically
Yeah, but it's exactly. But it's like, well, why spend the money for that? Just mix your own, and it's gonna be far more potent if you just once you just mix it.
Yeah.
You just can't do it all in one shot. You do a few at a time because it has the potential for raising your pH. Um, but that's those are the methods that I would do. I've been using the Kalkwasser method recently. I had gotten that laser, and that's when they exploded. So I will never use that laser again. Um, it makes you feel good because it's really nice watching them fry, but that's about as far as it goes.
Burn, baby, burn, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, filefish, butterfly, if you can keep it. Filefish are good for smaller tanks. Or peppermint shrimp.
yep.
I mean, get a couple peppermint shrimp if you don't have other things that'll eat them.
I like peppermint shrimp, yeah, but if you have wrasses, not a good thing. Wrasses or any of those triggers, even the blue jaw trigger is going to eat them. So,
Yeah.
um, let's see. Anyone else? Anybody else got any questions?
Who was asking that? K-Town?
No, it was chimp.
Ah.
I've never seen it. Well, I've seen Aptasia in my tank once when I threw a ball of Jado in, but
That's usually how you get them.
yeah, but I pulled it out as soon as I saw it. About a half an hour later, after it was under the light.
But you know what's the worst thing is when they're small enough that you don't even see them. So
Yeah.
hold on real quick, guys. My dog is wandered away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chimp. The 75, a copper band might be too big. Uh, most people say 125 or bigger from what I've read or talked to. Look at the filefish. They're a lot cheaper. They're fairly hardy. They're usually a lot easier to keep than copper bands, but they can go after zoas and things like that usually if they run out of aptasia, a little small polyp. So check with your LFS. I know my guy will essentially rent them out. You buy the fish, you bring it back to him, he gives you whatever 75% of it back.
That's a good idea because those things are really easy to catch too.
Yep, he does that with sea hares. He does that with a lot of your control creatures. And that's one. Go read about chimp. A Molly Miller blenny supposedly will eat aptasia. I don't know if it does or not, but it's a cool looking little fish either way.
That's one I've never heard of.
I've never tried it because I don't have that aptasia problem, but
right.
If I ever get it again, that's I will get one to try just because they're cool looking. They look like a little mini algae blenny, ember blenny almost. And supposedly they eat aptasia.
Yeah, I'll have to check one of those out.
I might get one and get some aptasia rock just to try them out in like a little 10-gallon.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see. Oh, here's one with they eat algae and stuff too.
Oh,
They're basically small algae blennies. What are lawnmower blennies?
Oh, okay.
They're like mini lawnmower blennies, but supposedly they'll eat aptasia too.
Gotcha. So, Does anybody on here have a alkalinity monitor?
No.
A what?
Alkalinity monitor.
No.
Okay.
I've seen one at Devon's, but I don't have one.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a few coming out, but it sure is taking a long time.
The problem that he had with his, though, is it tests so often and it kind of purges or whatever, so it dumps a bunch of water out, and then so he's dumping a whole bunch of salt water out, and then it's topping it up with fresh water, and his salinity dropped.
So there is a way to combat that. I don't know which one he has, but if he has the KH Guardian, I know that the reagent is basically just an acid, so it can go right back in the tank. You don't have to.
Well, you don't
have to dump it, and it basically is a small carbon dose each time the reagent goes back into the tank. So that's one way to prevent that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, they're scared. They don't understand carbon dosing and don't understand that acid is not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'd like to get one. I really want the Mind Stream. But it's taken a real long time.
I'm still looking at the basics of reef automation.
So Brandon, as far as the pineapple sponges, yeah, they're natural. It's a filter feeder, so it's only going to filter nutrients out of the water, which is a good thing.
I let them go.
Yep.
I actually feed them if that's bad. I use the KZ sponge power.
Sponge power, exactly. I use that too, but one of the keys, in my opinion, what made live rock so much better than dead rock was sponge. So when I set up my 25-gallon tank, I have a friend who's in our aquarium club. He has a 1,500-gallon tank, outdoor coral farm tank, and he has just a ton of sponge in his sump. That tank's been going for 20 years. And so I literally went and we cut pieces of sponge and I put them in a little dish and set it in the sump. And it's probably 5 times the size it was when I first got it. But then again, unlike a lot of people who have started with dry rock, I didn't have any issues.
Yeah, they're definitely no big deal, Brandon. They're actually beneficial. They're good.
I got a bunch of them, and they're mostly underneath my rock.
Yeah.
The shaded side, obviously, but yeah.
I've got all pineapple sponges under my rock, and I've got some blue sponges that grow on the side. They're dark blue.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mine are all yellow.
I'm assuming it's a sponge. I mean, that's the only thing that would grow like that I can think of. It's not a tunicate.
Yeah, those don't seem to last very long.
No.
In an aquarium.
I had one little clear one that was growing on a frag of GSP.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother wanted some GSP, so I gave him the frag. He dipped it and then cut the tunicate out.
Yep.
It had been alive in my other tank for like 6 months, and he cut the tunicate out. I'm like, what are you doing?
Filter feeders are good.
So Devin has the Focustronic Alcatronic.
Oh, he's got the Alcatronic. Okay,
yeah.
that's one of the better ones at the moment. The only problem is they're expensive.
Yeah, he probably got it for nothing.
So he probably got it for free.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's got what 2 or 3 salinity pins.
Yeah.
I just want the toys.
2 Chaeto reactors.
Yeah. He's got the what's the new Nero and the RN1.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of his toys sometimes. I'm jealous of Greg's tank too. I don't like when Greg shows his tank.
Yeah, well, it's I just got the bulkheads in today. I was originally going to go with the threaded Schedule 80 bulkhead. You know, I wanted to be fancy and get the Schedule 80 bulkheads, and you know, they only come in threaded for the most part. They're really hard to find and slip. And I didn't think about it. I didn't think it would be that difficult to work with a threaded bulkhead. But trying to deal with the height to get things to line up, it was just a mess. So I broke down and just ordered some slip bulkheads, and they came today.
Yeah. The easy thing to do if you're going to do that is buy the threaded to slip adapter and just run it off of that, because then you can get your measurements off of that slip adapter.
Well, my other issue is using the threaded bulkhead, the amount of water flow is restricted. I only have...
Yeah, because the threads are smaller than the slips.
Correct. I only have 1-inch bulkheads in this tank.
Oh, and that's a big tank.
Yeah, but I don't run a lot of water through it, you know?
Yeah, but still, then you're limited to 660 gallons per hour.
Exactly.
On a slip.
Yeah, I have 3, so I'll be okay. In my 225, I only had about 600 gallons per hour.
You running bean animal?
No, I was actually running Maggie mufflers.
Okay, just tank. 3 Maggie mufflers?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I don't know if you're running a bean animal setup.
No, I'll be running 2, actually. And then the third one is just going to be an additional one.
An emergency drain.
Right. So I plan on doing maybe around 800 gallons an hour in the return. And that'll be sufficient. Most of the water movement is going to come from the in-tank circulation pumps. So
I know you've told us. What are you putting for those?
For what?
In-tank.
Tunzi Stream 3s. That's right. Yeah. And right now I have 2, but I'm probably going to get a third. The tanks, I'm gonna go bare bottom. So now that I've gotten into these A-cans, or excuse me, Micromusa Lords.
It's an A-can. I do not allow PC on my channel.
Got it. Now that I've gotten into these A-cans, you know, it's kind of hard to get away from them.
Yeah, they are. I like them because they give good bottom coverage.
Yeah.
Lower rock coverage, something different besides just Zoas.
Well, that's my thing. I don't like Zoas.
I like the big polyp Zoas.
Yeah, those are the worst for me.
Oh, I love them. Sunny D's. I've got rainbows. I've got the space monsters.
Yeah, I've never really had them. I got them. I actually sold like 4 colonies just last weekend and bought some more A-cans because I've never had them. And with a one time I did, I got poisoned. And Palithoa, that's not fun.
No. I make it a habit, unless I'm just moving the frag plugs.
Right.
Well, my Sunny D's are on a rock, a small little rock. Mm-hmm. All my other ones right now are on frag plugs. But like when I go to actually move them and possibly glue them into this Pico that I'm setting up, mm-hmm. I'll be wearing PVC gloves.
Yeah, that's probably best to stick with that practice. I just never can remember to, and that's probably my downfall.
No, I keep them because I have a few boxes from when I used to work at as a plant operator still.
Okay.
They had to order me special gloves. I can't wear the nitriles, so I got my own special gloves ordered.
Gotcha.
And so I'd keep a case up on top of my little shelf with all my stuff on it. I keep it on top of my cutting board that I use.
Right.
I've got a cutting board that gets used, whatever, dollar store 12 by 12 cutting board just for coral cutting,
Okay.
fragging, things like that.
Well, cool. Oh.
Who made your tank, Greg? I remember you told us.
So, the tank was made by AGE, which is a company out of Texas. One of the sorry about the dog, but
You good?
one of the guys who used to work at Oceanic. I guess one went and started Planet Aquariums, and the other one started AGE.
Gotcha.
I think they both make good tanks. I prefer the AGE.
I just like that plastic bottom like you got.
Yeah. Well, they both do the PVC bottom, both companies. So that's something that the two of them, they know the recipe on what to use to bond the PVC to glass. So and the two guys are friends, the two owners, because they worked together for so long. So they both do that. But what I do like about the AGE is the stainless steel trim that goes around the bottom and the top. So basically, you figure your glass panels in the front and sides and back are all sitting in a U of silicone. So it's half an inch down, then
Right.
half an inch across the bottom. So my half-inch glass has, for a leak to happen on the bottom seam, it's got to go through 3/4 of an inch. I'm sorry, not 3/4, an inch and a half of silicone for water to get out of that seam. So also the tank doesn't flex at all. It's angle iron is what it's stainless steel angle iron. So even if your stand wasn't true, it's not going to flex.
Right.
I'm not worried about that. My stand is true. So, but yeah, it gives you a little more flexibility from that standpoint. But I may have done a few things. If I would have designed a tank for this particular house, I probably would have done it a little different.
Yeah.
But it's what I have, so I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to build another one. So,
not right now, at least, huh?
I don't think ever. I don't really have the energy to do it again. So I'm just, so busy with the aquarium shows and so forth. Now that we're doing 4 Reefapaloozas a year, it definitely is tougher.
That fixed the problem. I switched to a filter media cup instead of a sock, and the filter media cup keeps floating up on one side. My Chaeto ball's getting so big it's pushing on it because it's all in the same chamber.
Gotcha. Now, that's something I've never done. I've never done that type of refugium. An algae refugium.
I'm with... I guess I agree with O on that. It helps. Turf Scrubber does the same thing, but it's just easier. Just the same reason I went with the skimmer cup. When it gets full, you grab a handful of Chaeto out and throw it in the trash can.
Right.
When my skimmer cup gets dirty every couple of days, I take it, I dump the sock, the media out. I grab a handful of media, I stuff it.
Right. Yeah.
Pods can't grow in a turf scrubber either.
Yeah.
Oh, they like to say they can.
Yeah.
So I got that guy, I guess the Santa Monica protein scrubbers, or not algae
Turf
scrubbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's local around here, and he's in one of our local forums, and they try to say it can, and I'm just like, it's just not a haven for them the way Cato is. And even you don't even need Cato, just Rubble Rock.
Yeah.
I used to have, as I like to call my pod factory, which was a frag tank, and it was just full of little pieces of rock over the 10 years that had, anything that had broken off, or old calcium reactor media, when I changed the media out or stuff. I mean, I just threw everything in this thing, and it just ended up being full of this rubble rock, and there was no light on it. And I was feeding it with my pellet reactor. And one day I just noticed I just had pods everywhere in that tank. And I talked with the guy from Reef Nutrition, and he's like, "Oh yeah, pods love bacteria, the mulm from the bacteria."
Okay.
So yeah, that he said feeding them with that bio pellet reactor was the best thing for it. So I know my Antheus were thanking me for it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, has anybody else out there got any questions? Or want to join us? That's a good idea too. So, K-Town, do you have that Colorado sunburst, Antheus?
No.
And
I just
saw
have
that.
a pink one. Oh, Antheus?
No, I'm sorry, not Antheus. Anemone.
Oh, Anemone. Oh, no, they're all bubbles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend got that. It is amazing how yellow that thing is.
Yeah. It's just, I'm up in Canada, and it's hard to find anything up here, to be honest.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Where in Canada are you again?
I'm in BC.
Oh, okay.
West Coast. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's where Vertex used to be.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, they were in Vancouver.
Huh.
So the owner is Canadian.
I did not know that.
German. He was born in Germany, then moved to Canada when he was
yeah.
young and was raised in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're here locally in Southern California.
Yeah, just like every other company.
It's easy because Marine Depot's here.
Yeah.
So, Marine Depot's going to be one of your biggest clients.
Mm-hmm.
If you sell any aquarium stuff or bulk reef supply. And, Orange County is not a bad place to live.
No, that's for sure.
I mean, I really I went to Vancouver once and I loved it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I live in it's Kelowna. It's about 3.5 hours out of Vancouver. I'm in the Okanagan Valley, and is it what? Sorry.
What direction is that from Vancouver?
Well, you'd be going east of Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah. And not north. We're just east. Like we're still close to the border.
Right.
Yeah. So we're south Canada, southern
Okay.
Canada. Yeah,
So what state do you guys border in the U.S.?
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're in the mountains, like a mountain. We're in a valley, but mountains all around us. Yeah.
Gotcha. What chemicals should I for sure be dosing?
Chimp, send me your email real quick. Post your email on there. Unless, do you have chimps, K-Town?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Hold on, guys. I'll be back.
Yep.
So I got my sand yesterday for my anemone tank.
Oh, from Dev?
Yeah. So I just got to rinse it out a little bit more. It's pretty clean, but two
Good,
5-gallon buckets.
Oh, come on. Copy, you piece of crap. All right.
All right. So, hey, what's happening? So there was a guy asking in the chat before I left my computer.
Yep, I was waiting for you to come back.
Asking about
Chemicals.
supplements. I think that all depends. I mean, you got your big three, your calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity. And I think you really need to be testing before you're dosing those things.
Absolutely.
So, and then all of the other stuff, I think if you're a beginner, there's no need because you're not going to see a difference. You're probably going to do more damage than anything.
Yeah.
So,
I like Reef Fusion.
uh-huh.
It's pretty good and simple. It's 2 parts. It does have some of the major trace elements in it. That's what my LFS uses in all his tanks. That's what I've started using on mine. I've also used ATI Essentials. It's 3 parts, and it has all 32 or so trace elements.
Yeah, I actually use the Brightwell. It's fine too. I mean, they're all basically doing. When you start dealing with the 3 parts, the 3-part systems, you're getting the majority of the nutrients. So
yeah.
Just make sure that you space out your dosing of the alkalinity and the other parts, because the alkalinity will raise your pH and you could get some precipitation.
Yep.
But I would stay away from any trace elements, amino acids. None of those things are necessary. And I mean, even in my little 25-gallon tank, I mean, I got some pretty high-end corals in there, and the only thing I dose is the 3-part Brightwell. That's the only thing I dose regularly. I don't really dose the amino acids, even though I have them. I just can't remember to do it. And
yeah.
my corals, I mean, they're banging. I mean, they're looking really good, so I'm not really worried about it either.
I do
make sure
a little
test.
Yeah, make sure you test for any of the elements you're going to dose. I mean, you can't test for aminos, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Once you get a few, I'd say a decent little coral load, you can start doing aminos if you want. I do the KZ aminos, but what I do is I do the KZ aminos to supplement feeding. So I'm not dosing aminos every day and feeding coral every day and feeding fish every day.
Right.
My regimen is once, twice a week, I'll dose aminos. Just a couple mils, 1 to 2 mils of the Corlin Zucked amino LPS, and I'll do the sponge power the same day, a few drops in my, so I've got about 50 gallons of total system. I vary flakes and pellets and frozen throughout the rest of the week.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. I think a lot of people make this hobby harder than it needs to be. Keeping corals is very, very easy when you keep it simple. Keeping, I think most things that go wrong with keeping corals has to do with the fact that you also keep fish. Or you start adding other supplements and whatnot. But just keeping corals, they're pretty resilient. But when you feed your fish, you're adding a lot of nutrients to the tank, and those nutrients lead to other issues.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think I've seen some of the best tanks that don't dose anything.
Mm-hmm. If you have mostly softies, some LPS, you can get away with water changes.
Yep.
You need to do your testing. Test once a week, whatever, twice a week, something like that. Dosing in planet tanks, yeah. Test twice a week, once a week, something like that to start off. You could test every time before you do your water change. Don't do it after, because then you're messing with the numbers. When you start seeing a significant drop before you do your weekly water change, whatever. What would you say, Greg? I say half to 1 DKH.
Well, if it's a softy tank, you mean?
If it's softy and LPS.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. If it's softy and LPS, I mean, I just don't like it to go any lower than 7 DKH. But you could boost it to 10. They're not going to notice any difference.
Right. Well, but if you're running, if let's say you're running 7, you do a water change every week, and you're starting to see it drop down to like 6.2. You water change, it comes up.
Yeah, if you're doing water changes and it's still dropping, yeah, you probably need to consider dosing.
Yeah. Then you start doing something like one of the 2 parts or 3 parts.
Right.
And that's what I do. I do weekly 5 gallons on a 50-gallon system, and I dose the Seachem Reef Fusion 1 and 2 on a daily basis on a doser.
Yeah. And now with those new Kamoer.
Oh yeah, those are going to be nice.
Out, I mean, I'll put that kind of. I mean, geez, $60 each. That's $180 for a reliable doser.
Mm-hmm.
For the 3 parts. If you're only doing 2 part, then it's $120.
Yep. And then you can add on freely after that.
Exactly. Yeah, those I am definitely going to get. I'm actually responsible for our club's Christmas party raffle purchases. So those were right on my list. I just don't know if they're going to make it before the party.
Those would be nice handouts.
Yeah. No. Our Christmas party is insane. It's better than any reef show you've ever been.
If I'm ever in California at that time, I'll stop by.
Yeah. Good luck with that, because that's the other thing. One of the things we do with our club, I mean, we work hard throughout the year doing the show and whatnot. So to be able to come to our Christmas party, our members must come to 6 meetings or work 6 hours at Reefapalooza.
Oh.
Otherwise, they can't come to the Christmas party.
Yep, I don't qualify for that then.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're really strict about that. And the reason is because, we put so much into it. We don't want other people coming just because of what they can get out of the club.
Oh, I don't even care about the raffle. I just come hang out.
Oh no, there's no way you could not care about the raffle.
Oh, that good, huh?
Better than any reef aquarium show raffle ever.
Nice.
And it's just us. So, yeah, it's insane. Almost, I mean, I can say that if you probably say the product, I've probably raffled it off once or twice. I've raffled off a Bubble King skimmer.
Wow.
We've had, I know, 2 ATI power module hybrids, countless radions, AIs, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff.
Roids, you need to get energy to get a plant in California.
Good luck.
To get a what?
We can barely get one in New Orleans.
He works for the power company I was talking about earlier. That's my younger brother.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's California getting what kind of power you guys do? Nuclear?
All kinds.
Nuclear, fossil, distribution, generation, transmission, gas, a little bit of everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, California, we don't like to add power plants.
Nowhere does.
Yeah, but we're especially bad.
Yeah, y'all are.
Yeah.
No, I
mean, we closed down our nuclear power plants.
Yeah, everywhere's closing down nuclear. No one wants to do nuclear. Fossil fuels are so cheap right now and so efficient, you can't beat the money because regulatory is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the crazy thing is I don't understand it. I mean, I consider nuclear power clean energy.
It's clean energy, but it's so volatile that the regulation to keep it stable and everything, it's just so expensive to maintain. It's got to being more efficient than fossil fuel.
Well, I know we were having this talk on another stream, but I just I can only think of 3 really bad nuclear disasters.
Yes, and that's why regulatory is so high now.
Chernobyl, Fukushima.
Right. But those Fukushima, one that's recent. The other ones were, 50 years ago?
Yeah. The technology was a lot older.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's totally different now. And when you look at how many of those plants there are around the world and don't have issues. And the Fukushima thing, that's a freak issue. The power plant was fine. It was the water, the wave. That was the problem. So.
But when they build another one, they build a break wall.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they'll build a bigger one. Because I know.
So, back Fish, what's y'all's opinions on the new Triton tester in Apex?
You talking about the Trident?
Yeah.
He's talking about the Trident. I'll tell you my opinion on it.
That's probably one of the better ones to ask too, Derek.
It don't work.
Really?
It's not out.
Well, yeah, I know it's not out, but supposedly when it comes out, I mean, it's everywhere. I'm looking at it as because I am one who does not test on a regular basis at all.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on the technology.
I've tested more this week than I have in the past year.
Gotcha.
So for me, I was thinking if it is even somewhat reliable, to at least get it to watch a regular, steady testing results, and then if I see something that's off or once a week, once every 2 weeks,
right,
do my own test with a reliable kit to kind of keep it in, and see that it's still in check.
Correct.
Check it, to where if there's a major swing on this Trident tester that I know, okay, I need to do a normal test myself.
Right. You are looking at it, the advanced reefer ideology. Everyone else wants to look at this as I can set up my doser to dose the product if I get a bad reading.
Oh, yeah, that's smart. Let's have a robot control a robot.
Exactly. So you're looking at it from a much better standpoint, which is the way you should be working on it. Now, what I will say about the reliability of the test, it's a titration test. I mean, it's one of the oldest forms of testing that we use. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
They are having. We know that the alkalinity version of it works.
Okay.
I don't know why Neptune decided to add the magnesium and the calcium. They could have done that in a secondary product.
Okay.
The alkalinity, we've seen it work in action at Magna. I saw it with my own eyes testing. But the other parts of it, they could have made 3 separate boxes and you could add to your system. And they could have charged more just for the alkalinity. They could have charged $400 for the alkalinity version, $200 for each additional module after that. That would have been an $800 total. People would have bought that because everybody wants the alkalinity. And a lot of people would have bought it. And the alkalinity works. And they can figure out the rest of it later. I don't know why they didn't do that. But they've already promised you all 3, so now they kind of got to give you all 3.
Yep.
I think they should have just exactly what you said. They could have called it the Trident system, Trident A, B, and C.
Yep.
Yep. And sell them all for 15% markup of what a single one costs, and you got extra money.
I mean, because think about it. They're talking about $600 for this unit. But people are raving about not the KH Guardian, the Alcatronic, which is $900, and it only tests alkalinity.
Yeah,
and they're raving about it. So yeah, I really thought this would be out by now, and I really have my doubts that it's ever available. That's just my honest. I just don't know. I mean, Terrence isn't going to tell me how bad the problem is, but the fact that it's taken this long, it's got to be pretty. There's got to be a major hiccup. It can't be something little.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so
now
I can, the one I'm looking forward to most is the gosh dang it, what's that thing called? The one that's we've been waiting on longer. Gosh. I don't even know what it's called. There's another one that they did a crowdfunding for. And
it's not the one that Coral View has.
No, that's KH Guardian, and that works. That one was the first alkalinity monitor when Neptune announced theirs that they were that they were going to come out with it. That one was already on sale in Asia.
Yeah. Now, that one you can only use liquid test though, correct?
It's not really. No, it's similar to the Alcatronic. What they're doing is they're using a pH monitor. The pH monitor is measuring the time it takes to get. So they're adding an acid, and then you measure how long it takes the pH to drop in a given sample,
which measures your buffering capability.
Exactly. So they're calculating it. So yeah, I think, I mean, that's a way of doing it. Same, I don't know how the KH director from GHL works. It may work the same way. I'm not sure. So
Trying to find the other one you're talking about.
it looks like it's like the size of a hockey puck. I just can't think of it right now. Mindstream. So the Mindstream, we've been waiting on that forever, but that is a whole new technology. And I have seen one in action. I actually found out that a friend of mine was a beta tester for it, and it's impressive. It's really impressive. And it has been spot on for him. The reason, they were having, I guess, some issues with a couple of things, but it's going to test multiple things in the tank also.
Gotcha.
The thing about this, there's no reagents. This thing just sits in the water, and it periodically does tests throughout the day.
So how does it test then?
It's a disc. It's a fluorescing disc, and different elements make it fluoresce differently. And so that's how it reads it.
So you probably just have to change the discs over time.
Every 2 months, or every month, excuse me. Every month you change the disc. The difference is the level of accuracy.
Right.
And the level of accuracy is supposed to be scientific grade. Because the main use that they're trying to develop this for is for scientists to have in the oceans all over the world testing, for global warming.
Right.
So and eventually it'll be able to test even more things than it currently is going to be testing. I mean, there's more things they can add, but they need to come out with a baseline first. They can add the other stuff later. But the fact that it tests alkalinity, or the way it's testing alkalinity, I don't know exactly how it's doing it, but I believe it's measuring. It's doing a calculation by measuring CO2, pH, and something else. I don't exactly remember. But yeah, there's no reagents.
Yeah, so the Mindstream is alkalinity, calcium, salinity, temperature, pH, O2, CO2, ammonia, and potassium.
Yeah. And it's probably going to be over $1,000. But you know what? I'd pay that. If it's as accurate as they're projecting it to be, I'll pay that.
Yeah, and see, I agree with Royds'. The way he would want to use it is the way I would want to use one. Yeah, I don't want to pay $1,000 because I don't care how accurate it is, as long as the precision is there, as long as it's consistent, and it will get me. I don't care if it's 2 DKH off, as long as it always reads at 2 DKH off.
Right.
I can work with it from there.
Right. And I think the problem is so many people are waiting for these because they want to automate their dosing. I think that's absolutely wrong. And as long as people don't, and I can talk as many people as I can out of doing that, I think all these alkalinity monitors will be great.
Yeah. I mean, fine tune your dosing on your own. Yeah. Royd said it all. It's robots controlling robots. You know what? Robots controlling robots works fine when it's $1 million automated assembly line.
Maybe.
Well, most of the time. I mean, you still have engineers that monitor it, yes. But for the bulk of its running time, it works.
Right.
But let's say $1 million an arm, $1 billion car manufacturing plant.
But we're in a hobby that one mistake could be total loss.
Right.
And if they're willing to risk that, don't blame the company when it fails.
Right.
And that's unfortunate because people in this hobby, that's the first thing they look to do is to blame someone else for their failures.
Well, that's human nature. It's not my fault.
No, it's this hobby. This hobby is it's like magnified.
Yeah.
You know, they want to blame. You know, I had a friend who was all upset because Bulk Reef Supply, I guess he couldn't get the parts for their Drew's doser. And he was like, you know, it's total crap and da-da-da-da. I'm like, whoa.
Is that their
When
little 1.1 mil per minute doser?
Yeah, I said, when you bought it for $50, you knew it was crap. Why are you complaining now? I said, you could have bought a GHL.
Right.
Well, that would have been $400. Exactly.
Well, that's what you get.
Yeah. You bought crap. It's just like the dosing pumps from Kamoer for calcium reactors. I'm not saying that those are as good as those high, you know, the super high grade medical dosing pumps. I mean, those things cost, you know, brand new $6,000-$7,000.
Right. And it's life or death is the difference.
But at $300, and the fact that you can also for another $45 get a spare head and a spare tube for $8, you can have that stuff on hand all day. You know, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, even the spare motor, you can replace the motor in that thing for $45. And that stuff's, and that Coral View has all that stuff in stock. So, you know, I look at it from that standpoint. You can go cheaper, but when you start looking at the bottom of the barrel, you should expect things to go wrong.
Right. Well, I mean, that's, yeah. Just like doing a budget tank. I mean, you can do a budget tank.
Absolutely.
But it takes a lot more effort.
Right. You know, I have a lot of people that ask me, you know, they come and see my tank, you know, and they would say, oh, you know, oh, I bet that's really hard. And I'm like, no, it's not that hard. It's as hard as you want to make it. But the big thing is, they're like, oh, you know, cleaning it must take all day. And I said, no. When you buy a big tank, you need to be willing to spend the money to make life easy.
Mm-hmm. What's up, TMG?
You know?
Yeah.
I tell people, you know, you don't stick your hand in the tank to clean the glass. Use a magnet.
You know,
you'll spend the extra money.
You know the best thing that I would buy for a big tank?
What's that?
Have you seen the little Kedsum magnet cleaner?
I don't think so. Is that the one that's like on a track and it does it automatically?
No. It's like a $9 magnetic handle cleaner, but it's like 4x6. I ordered one for my 40 breeder, not realizing how big it was. It's huge. And it works great. The magnet is strong.
What I use the Tunzi Care magnets.
Mm-hmm.
I love those things because you can never scratch your tank with it. The way it works, the only two things touching the tank are the two blades.
Ah, yeah.
Everything else, so it can't. You know, if it catches any sand, it just comes right off. It can't get between the blades and the glass.
Right.
So that, for me, I don't think I'll ever use another magnet other than the Tunzi Care magnet after using it.
So you had problems with a flipper?
I had a flipper, but they have the ability to pick up pieces of sand. Okay.
I just used the blade side with it.
Right.
Where I had problems, I didn't pick up any sand. The metal blade.
It rust, yeah.
Somehow got a burr in it. I mean, I felt it. This was on my 75, not on my 40. I tried. I mean, you know, I saw a scratch. I was cleaning the front, and it had a couple small scratches. It was a secondhand tank, but I went across the front, left to right, and a big old streak. I was like, "Oh man!" I took it apart. You know, I scrubbed it. I cleaned it. I felt the blade with my hand. You know, my thumb. Nothing. Right. Couldn't find it. Went back. You know, I said, "Okay, it's got to be good." I started going again. Another big old scratch. I'm like, Oh.
Wow.
So now I just use the acrylic blade on my glass. It's plastic. It can't scratch it.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah, no. I actually didn't know that the Tunzi had a blade that you could add to it. My friend's like, because I told him I had bought another one because I needed a blade because I went like 2 weeks. Like when I went to Reefapalooza Orlando, we went up a week early. So I was gone like a week and a half, and I didn't clean the tank before we left, and you know how the algae gets, and you can't get it off after that very easy. So you need that blade, and yeah, I couldn't find the blade, and he's like, it's in the manual taped to one of the pages. I'm like, oh, sure enough, there it was. So, but yeah, no, I love that thing. I love that thing. I think it's, for me, I think it's the best scraper on the market. Just simply because you really can't scratch your tank.
Right.
All right. So I got a question for y'all.
Go for it. Don't know anything about them.
Okay, never mind.
I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Parameters are good. DKH has been at 8. Calcium around 440.
Uh-huh.
Some of the A cans are closed. Some are open. The ones that are closed have been there for a while in the same spot. Didn't change lights. Didn't change anything.
Uh-huh.
Is it just, are they kind of like Zoas where some don't like something and...
Do you feed them?
Not really. Do I need to feed them?
I feed mine.
Okay.
And I can...
Mine, but the fatties eat everything.
I can, yeah, see that might be a problem. You also may have a fish that's... is there any chance you have a fish that's picking at them?
Could it be one of the 3 zebrasoma shoved in his 75?
Those are supposed to be herbivores.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch them constantly. None of them pick at any of the corals. Neither does the little coral beauty. And yes, I have 3 zebrasomas in a 75, but they're all 2 inches big.
I know. Yeah. I just got to give him flack.
I'd be worried about the coral beauty.
Yeah, the coral beauty could be doing it at night too.
Yeah, they are a cryptic fish. But I would start with feeding them, and I feed mine every other day.
Okay. I mean, even if they're closed up right now, they'll still take food?
You start off very mild with the feeding. And eventually, especially if you start doing it at the same time each day, their polyps will be out and ready around that time each day.
Okay.
Is what I have found.
Okay.
I mean, geez. You know, Billy Pipes talked about his Acan Bob, which had these enormous polyps on it. All of mine, after I've had them for a while, they all get like that. They get these huge polyps, you know, when they're getting fed, because they just keep you know, building tissue.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, I would say if you looked at my acans when they're fluffed up, when they're deflated, they're probably 1/8 the size of what they look like when they're pumped up. And I'm not exaggerating when I say 1/8 the size. It's crazy how big they get. Okay. But those are ones I've been feeding since March.
You need to get you a long coral feeder, Derek.
I have a long coral feeder.
Just put your nori clip in, drop some food on that side of the tank, and then go after the the acans.
You know what's a good food to feed them is the fish eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the reason I say the fish eggs is because they're really small. Sometimes they can be too much work for the fish.
Okay.
I feed mine fish eggs sometimes, and sometimes I feed them mysis,
Okay.
But I don't have any fish that are going to snake the mysis.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that. It gives them time to do it. But the fish eggs, I use the Rods Foods fish eggs.
Yep, the real oceanic eggs works pretty good too.
Yeah, they take you put some of that down, with one of those little turkey basters, and they can grasp that and get it in their mouth really quickly. And that's how you get them started. But eventually, if you can start feeding them a couple, about a mysis shrimp per head every other day, they're really going to get big and healthy.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have the Hikari coral gumbo and cyclopod cubes.
Yeah. Now, do you have a lot of flow on them?
Not really.
Okay. That's another thing. My A-cans are at the front of the tank, and both the pumps are at the back of the tank blowing forward. So they're getting a pretty decent amount of flow. Not like getting blasted by a power head. It's diffused flow, but it's constant flow.
Okay, I may try to adjust them and move them a little bit further to the front.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, I've had good luck with them. I really love them. I didn't the first time when Australia first opened up, a friend of mine just bought a ton of them. And we didn't know anything about them. Nobody knew how to care for them or what to do. And, they just eventually just kind of whittled away, But since I've had this 25-gallon tank, I've just kind of looked at it as an experiment. And, I've been doing things like feeding it. And I first started with pellets, just the fish pellets. But they don't like that quite as much. I mean, they'll take a couple of them.
They like the softer foods, it seems like to me.
Yeah, they like the softer food.
They will suck down flakes. When I drop those spirulina flakes in, they'll catch little flakes and suck them down.
Yes. But that's because those get soft pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the jaw.
Wow.
What up, TMG?
You wouldn't believe how that just sounded. I literally just jumped in and wow.
What did I say? They sucked them in?
I heard suck them down. Yeah, you'll be surprised how soft they get quickly. What? I just jumped into like, whoa.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I can see how that would have been problematic.
What's going on, gang?
Oh, nothing much. What's up, bud?
Nothing. Filling up this frag tank.
So I was just listening to you, Greg, about ACAN. So
when did O get here?
You here too?
Where?
Huh?
When did he get here?
I heard Greg talking about ACAN, so I was But do you really have to feed them that often? Because basically, what you describe
is exactly that often.
Is exactly how I don't feed any. I tend to not feed any corals, but what you just described about them withering away, I get them from Billy, and Billy feeds them, so they're like plump and juicy, and then over time with me, they just slowly wither away.
Yeah, that's because you're not feeding them, and he does.
Yeah, they need to be. They are a coral that catches and eats food, just like lobos. Lobos need to be fed too.
Yeah, I mean, you can even feed them like Greg was talking about the eggs, the oyster feast, the Roddy feast.
Yep.
I can watch them when I feed that Roddy feast from Reef Nutrition, which is just rotifers.
Yep, you see them catch them.
I'll dump that stuff in the tank, and you'll watch their little tentacles out. And you can watch something will hit them, and they'll start retracting one, and then they'll retract another one as they grab those rotifers out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, broadcast feeding works. It absolutely works. Me, I'm actually trying to get them to grow. I'm trying to get them to grow as fast as possible, so that's why I feed them as much as I do.
Yeah. Now, there's a big difference with like ACANs. With feeding them and not feeding them, the growth is completely different.
Yeah.
Like completely. Yeah. Like I have like two ACAN colonies. I beefed them up. The first 8 months I've had them till I started like let the tank just do what it does. I used to feed them all the time, and the polyps were so fat. Now they're like normal looking acans.
Yep.
Like normal looking acans. They're not like fluffy. Like they don't have that like water effect. Like when you feed them all the time, they have this water effect. It looks like they're just filled with water. Like what I
Right.
mean? It's just crazy. So no, like yeah, I definitely think they need to be fed. Like I think food is underestimated in the reef tank. Like I think this whole like corals relying on fish poop and just like absorbing nitrates. Like I don't think we actually understand how much food is in a cup of salt water in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But that not only that, that's a food supply all day. That's a buffet.
Exactly.
Now,
It's just
let
like
me.
if you ever feed like if you ever like broadcast feed your tank, you'll see the little tentacles. Like when you spot feed acans and stuff, we have this like we have this conception that it's just like the mouth that's eating. Versus when you broadcast feed, like Greg said, you'll see a tentacle catch something and pull it in. Another tentacle catch something and pull it in.
Yep.
Each of those
Mhm.
tentacles are responsible for feeding. It's not just the mouth. Like what I mean?
Yeah,
Like when
they
you
just
spot
pull it to
feed,
the
like
mouth.
exactly, they just pull it through the mouth. Like you hit it with a big glob of reef roids or mysis. It makes it seem like it has to consume like that much food at once. No, it's perfectly fine with like snatching something here and there, like constantly, like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And like I don't think fish
Yeah.
poop is like something. It doesn't snatch fish poop because like I like honestly like that's like one of the most like I don't know. I think it's a fable because like underneath my torches, all my tangs, all my clownfishes, they poop on my torches. Like that's the poop corner. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm pretty sure everybody has like a poop corner, like where all the fishes go and they just poop in that corner. And they don't eat that stuff. Like I don't care what anybody says, they do not eat that. Like
They eat it
it's
once
like
it starts to break down, as
no, it's
Right.
Marines
already.
know.
But that's the
But
thing.
I
It's
think
or
that's
feces.
mostly
Feces are
SPS though.
completely broken down. Feces are completely broken
Yeah.
down. Feces are the equivalent to cardboard. They are completely broken down. You know.
Yeah.
DM mute cut me off in the background or mute the background.
Now, let me disclaimer that I don't know if Brandon's still there. Um, we're talking about all this stuff, feeding this and feeding that. If you're already having some nutrient problems, don't just go start dumping food in the tank because
Right.
it will compound it. I can get away with. I do feed. I feel like I feed pretty heavy, but I mean, I've been running zero nitrates and phosphates for a couple months now.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's I don't think zero nitrates and zero phosphates are bad. I
No,
think
if you
I think
feed.
yeah, I think they're
If
bad
you
when
feed, they're
you
not
don't
bad.
feed. Yeah, I think it's bad
Yeah.
when you don't feed. Like when your tank is starving, like you know what I mean, and there's like just nothing chemically going on. There's like no chemical processes going on to like convert anything. Then I think it's bad. And
Guys,
like I've said this on other streams and it's always been overlooked. But I think the next frontier for reefing and like Tristan, I see like Tristan starting to do it. I know reef dudes start to do it and then because of his new tank build he kind of like put on the back burner. I really think automated feeding live foods is the next step in reefing. Like I don't care what like anybody says, like being able to dose like 1,000 copepods and like on a daily basis and phytoplankton on a daily basis live is I think that is the next step. Not like any refrigerated like bull crap. Like actual like just being able to like just constantly dump in like you know what I mean stuff. I think that's the next frontier because it's
no, I already talked about how you can set up a pod factory. That's easy.
yeah. I know the Apex dose definitely.
And
I know
and let me
somebody
tell
that
you,
does it.
pods make it through the pump, especially when they're babies.
Oh
They
yeah, I know
make it
that.
into the main tank,
I
so
know that.
you
I
don't
know
have to
that for a
worry
fact.
about that.
I know that for a
But
fact. You know.
but after that talk with Reef Nutrition, hearing about how much bacteria pods will eat, and running my my EcoBac bio pellets, the effluent coming out of there right into my refugium, which had no light. It was just rubble rock. And it was amazing. Completely amazing. That's really what you need, is just an area in the tank or out in the sump for those things to breed, where they have the cover and the nooks and crannies to get in, and they will breed like crazy. So that I think, yeah, you do agree. I don't think the live foods, as far as setting up these hatcheries, I mean, it's not practical in a smaller tank. I wouldn't even do it on my 250-gallon tank. It's just not, to me, it's just not practical. I think you need a fish room for that kind of stuff.
Need to be like Alex G, huh?
Exactly.
That's not that you can't do it. It's just,
yeah, it's not that you can't.
Is it worth the effort?
Right. And I think, I would love to see. I mean, when I had my old SPS tank, I never really fed anything other than pellets. So I had an Eheim auto feeder that fed the tank 4 times. I think it was 4 times per day, whatever the maximum times a day it could feed it.
Mm-hmm.
And put a little bit of food in, all throughout the day, those 4 times, and those Anthias would eat it up. I had like 20 Anthias or so in that tank, and yeah, I mean, it was a great little method. I didn't really feed any frozen food or anything. It was try to be keep my hands out of the tank as much as possible. But that was an SPS tank. Most people, aren't doing that. But
yeah.
But with a softy LPS tank, I just don't see feeding live foods as viable. It's just too much work. I mean, you can do if you just feed phytoplankton, your pod population will explode if you feed it religiously.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So Phyto in like a week. Do it.
Yeah. But we got away from that when DTs went out of business. There used to be a company, DT's Phytoplankton, and I mean, everybody used to buy that stuff. It was live phytoplankton, and all your fish stores would carry it on the shelves. And he went out of business. He kind of was a little crazy, and people stopped feeding phyto.
Yeah,
DT's was really good.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
It was DT's. Stood for Dennis, and I can't remember what his last name was. Tangren or something like that. But he was a nut.
So let me ask you, I'm picking up some algae borne pods and phyto from a guy tomorrow, probably. If I don't use all that phyto in the couple weeks of shelf life, would you freeze it so that way you can have it frozen, or just trash it?
And you trash it. It goes bad.
Okay. I didn't know if you could freeze it and then just feed little bits as... There
were forms of frozen phyto. I haven't researched it. It wasn't frozen. It was still a liquid.
There's the Reef Nutrition Phyto Feast. I know my LFS feeds, and he loves it.
Yeah, that works. You can feed dead phytoplankton. That doesn't bother him. There used to be one that was frozen though, and it would last a long, long time. Even the Reef Nutrition has a fairly short shelf life.
Yeah, it's 6 months or so.
Yeah, it's. I never seem to use it all. What was that?
What about the Sustainable Aquatics live phyto?
I don't know how it's packed. It's probably a fresh phyto. I mean, a fresh phyto is going to have the shortest shelf life. And it's also going to be less concentrated.
What I got.
Something like the Reef Nutrition is extremely concentrated.
Yeah, you just need a mill or two.
Yeah.
at a time. Now with that, so
I
that
think I used to put in like 20 drops, some
Yeah.
shit like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
which would be what, 2 mils?
about 2 mils. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
every drop is about a tenth of a mil.
I'm just trying to figure out how much of that stuff I need to dose. I've only got 50 gallons. I mean, I do have a pretty overrated skimmer, so I guess any excess can technically get skimmed out, but I've got to get it. I've got to get it from him because you order the little packages.
Right.
So, it saved me on the shipping.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so,
did you not have any pods in your tank already?
I have some. I just want to add some variety
Some
because it's got the
There you go.
different strains and.
Gotcha.
I do have that pink streak brass who likes to hunt them, so
Yes.
and he moves constantly. Plus, I just set up a Pico, so I'll probably dump about a third of it in my refugium, a third of it in the display tank, and then I'll put the other third in my Pico.
Okay.
Let's dump all of it in your fuge, man, and the Pico.
Or you Bryce if you want some.
Somewhat.
That I got bristle worms for you if you want them.
Yeah, sure.
Yo, speaking of bristle worms, yeah, I just scored today. So my LFS just somebody's tank, their 400-gallon or 500-gallon sprung a leak. So he basically bought all the SPS off the guy. So like it's it was like crazy. Like everybody flocked to his store like it was like a shipment from Indo. It's crazy. And so a lot of stuff encrusted onto the live rock. And dude, I just picked up probably like 10 pounds of live rock, 10 years old. Like it was so disgusting. It was like amazing. I loved it. Dude, I just threw all of that shit in my sump. Like, dude, there was like a bristle worm like freaking 6 inches long. I was so happy. I don't have bristle.
I don't want any that big.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be happy to get a 6-inch long bristle worm, but
Dude,
hey,
no, it's in my
giant
sump.
tank,
It's in
maybe.
my sump. I mean, I don't really care. It's just the fact
Yeah.
that I've never had bristle worms. Like, you got to remember, I started with Dead Rock, Clean Shadow. I don't have any of that cool stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I've been working at the LFS for the past month, and I've been picking up that little. So he said, take as many bristle worms as you want. Take a handful because they got a bunch of.
dude, I don't even have bristle stars. I remember when I started in the hobby 6 years ago, and I used to get like Fiji, like real Fiji rock, like. Dude, I have bristle stars like everywhere. Asterina stars,
little mini ones
everywhere. Yeah, the little mini ones that when you feed the tank, they stick
Hey.
their arms out and then they go away.
TMG, I'll overnight you some bristle worms.
How much?
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
All right, dude. I would kill for some. Like it was just something about them. I love them. Like it just adds.
I mean, they
like,
are
that
good
extra-
cleanup.
I don't. Yeah, it's not even about the cleanup. It's just like
One of the best to try to the worst.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
can get
it's
in
just the fact of,
every
like,
small
having them.
cranny.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
you put your hands in the tank a lot, keep some masking tape around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, today I was at the LFS. I literally, like, the guy, I was picking up bristle worms with my bare hand. They're like, oh my God, you're going to get stung. I'm just like, dude, I survived palitoxins. I'm okay. Like, you know.
Yeah, I just had a touch earlier this week.
You had a what?
Palitoxin.
Oh, dude, it's the weirdest feeling.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
Mine was
I don't even-
mild.
I'm
This
scared.
time
I'm
around
scared
was mild.
I'm scared to even say this, like, but what's it called, Greg? I think like we're kind of, I wouldn't say immune to it, but I think we could take a good hit. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't like to take a good hit.
Yeah,
I prefer to stay away from them.
I think we could take a good hit. I think it's a melanin. I'm joking, but
It might be.
but no, dude, I've had to sit down a few times. Like I've had like an open cut on my hand, and I'm like in their range and stuff. The green pallies are the worst because they slime right up, and I'm just like, I literally just sat down, like, want to vomit. I had a hot flash. I'm just like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go to the hospital.
Oh yeah, I ain't ever had it that bad.
No, yeah, I've had it. I've had the hot flashes, and then like it kind of like goes away after a while. Like the hot
Right.
flash is bad,
Yeah,
but
the one I had
freaking
was just the eyes.
the eyes. I've never had
Yeah,
eyes.
where the
What
eyes,
happened?
because I obviously rubbed my eye.
Oh man, dang, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had it got into a cut, but dude, I'll kill for some bristle stars. I think that was Dion that said
Yeah, the
that.
little starfish are cool.
Yeah, and Asterinas, dude, I haven't seen Asterinas in ages. Are they
Man, I
like
don't want to see
extinct?
those.
Why?
Because they eat zoas and stuff.
Let
No,
them eat. Let them eat, man. The
they
hell.
don't. They don't eat all that much. You know what? They're opportunistic feeders, and most of the time they're eating stuff that there was another underlying problem. Same with hermit crabs and all the other stuff. You know, people like to blame stuff.
Yeah.
They like to find somebody to blame for their failures.
Like my coral banded shrimp, right? Whenever I used to throw new fishes into my tank, if he caught them, I'm just like good, like you know what I mean, because he would he would catch he would catch them.
Where's your coral banded shrimp in the main tank?
The coral banded,
Uh huh.
yeah, he's in the main. He would catch any. He would catch any like feeble fish.
You know
He
what
would
they?
catch
You know
them.
what they? You know what they eat in nature, right?
Feeble fish.
No,
What?
bristle worms.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is their primary
Oh, that's
diet.
why I don't have any.
They're like arrow crabs.
Yes.
Oh, oh, interesting. I mean, I threw all the bristleworms in the sump, so
Yeah.
they'll be fine. That's interesting. But I mean, like he would catch like he's caught mandarins. He's caught like he caught my mandarin. He caught my fox face. I saw him chowing down the fox face. And he caught my ruby red dragonet. So I'm chowing down on him.
I love those
You know?
fish.
Oh yeah, they're great. I don't know if it was because of the size or if it just was like
Oh,
if it
they're
was
slow.
yeah, it was probably just struggling with the pod population.
Yeah.
So he was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put you out of your misery," you know. But yeah, I see those as opportunistic feeders. You know, if you're sick, they're gonna get you.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that people, they lose and they're like, oh yeah, that ate my this or that ate my that. And it's like, no, no.
I think it's control, man. It's all like I think nature just has a way of controlling stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like people because we don't like it, we make a fuss about it. Like you know what I mean? Like if I had a powder blue, I want that coral bandit to catch his ass if he has ick. Like kill him.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Like eat everything. Like you know what I mean? Eat all the ick. Like get rid of his sick ass. I don't want it. Like you know what I mean? People get upset. They put a fish in their tank. It dies. I'm like I want it to die as soon as possible. Like if it's not meant to, if it can't hang with the big boys, die. Like
Yep.
you know.
I have a friend who's got a 500-gallon SPS tank
Mm.
and probably has every non-reef safe angel you can imagine in there. I mean, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no big deal.
Yeah.
The corals still grow. They're still fine.
Yeah.
Butterflies. I mean, he's got everything.
Yeah.
Everything that any of these hobbyists online would say, no, you never put that. It'll nip at your corals. He's got them all. I can't believe. I'm going to have to take a video, go by there, take a video of his tank and post it.
Yeah.
Because it's just amazing the fish that he has in there.
Yeah.
And in a fully stocked SPS tank that's 500 gallons.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all about balance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he probably has so many SPS that like
and he feeds. He feeds his tank.
Could,
he's not afraid.
Yeah, you know, I think it was me and Paul Reef Worldwide community. I'm not sure if it was online or offline. We were talking that. Has anybody ever thought about the fact that angels, like certain fish, go aggressive towards corals because of a malnutrition problem.
That's what I think it is.
Because before I ever touched a reef tank, I was in the reptile world, and we used to coat them with like the food that you feed certain reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
Certain phases, like if they're gravid or something, you had to coat it with calcium, or else they would become really aggressive towards you. You know what I mean? And it's just because they know, like, hey, like, you're loaded with calcium. You get what I'm saying? They just
Yeah.
know, and it's just one of those things. Like, maybe they nip at stuff like that because what we're providing them just isn't meeting their nutrition requirement. Like these little bullshit pellets, and you know what I mean, this bullshit mysis. Because I don't know, like, you know what I mean. So it's just stuff like that, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, parrotfishes, like, I know they eat, like, corals, like, nonstop. Well, I mean, they eat corals because they graze on algae and they just, like, bite corals and they could digest it and whatnot. But, so, like I said, I really think nutrition is, like, the next frontier after, like,
I agree with
automated. Yeah, this automated, once we get, like, the automated dosing and testing down, I think the next, like, technological frontier will be, like, nutrition, like, you know what I mean, like some non-gimmicky nutrition, like,
right.
Well,
I can, I'm really, I've always, like to do pellets, as a food, putting it on an automatic fish food.
Yeah.
But the one pellet that I used, a lot of people never even heard of, never even considered using.
What, TDO?
Yep. Everything eats that.
My LFS just got a shipment of it today.
That is, in my opinion, by far the best. And the reason why is because you have a lot of these small companies that make fish food for ornamental fish.
Mm-hmm.
But Reed Mariculture, who is the parent company of Reef Nutrition, they make food for fish farms.
Yeah.
See, I like the sustainable aquatics hatchery diet.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna grab one of my fish foods right now with the ingredients.
Hey.
Is that Catahoula?
Yeah. They're wrestling. I came outside with them, and the beagle and the Catahoula are wrestling each other. So.
All right.
But
so
yeah, no, that.
I'm holding a New Life Spectrum marine formula.
Uh-huh.
And ingredient number 3 actually is whole wheat flour.
Fish don't eat wheat.
But that's the thing. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like
filler.
the whole what's that ratio? What's that ratio called again?
Redfield ratio.
All right, so like, yeah, not to go like too much into this, but like the whole Redfield ratio, it's almost specific to biomes. So like if you're a land animal, based on land shit, you're gonna have like a certain ratio. If you're a sea animal, based on sea shit, you're gonna have that ratio. So basically, whatever you consume, it basically dictates that ratio. So like, you can't feed aquatic shit land shit. It just doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, even freshwater, you're not supposed to feed freshwater shit to saltwater shit. They just don't match up. Like their makeup is completely different. You know what I mean? So like this whole like, like chasing nutrients and all that bullshit, like trying to like get these numbers to align, they align naturally when the input, once you input the right stuff, the output is going to be the right stuff, and it's like, it's just annoying. Riboflavin, like, why is there B12, like niacin? It's just crazy. Like, why?
Yeah,
there's like so much buffers in this, so much buffers.
Even with my dogs, I don't feed them a dog food that has grain in it.
Yeah,
Dogs don't eat grain. They're carnivores. I don't
dude,
care what
dogs
people
eat.
say.
I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from the Caribbean. Dogs eat grains when they're sick. When
Yeah.
they're gonna die, they like you'll see dogs eating wheat and they'll eat grass and stuff when they're about to
Right.
fucking die. Like, you know, like whenever you see a dog like grazing on grass, you know they're that's it. Like they're down for the count. Like, you know what I mean? That was just a thing we knew. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
like some third world shit. But like, you know, like they're not grazers. Like, you know.
Well, that TDO is some good shit.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it. My LFS just got a shipment of it. So
I always got the smallest grains they made.
Mhm.
And my corals would eat that too. You know, I had a lot of anthea, so I liked, you know, a lot of little pellets floating in the water
Yeah.
column, and you know, that worked. I never tried any of the bigger ones because I've never had any fish that required it.
Yeah.
But that's some really good stuff. It comes back to my thought process of most of the companies in this hobby have one foot in the garage and their goal is to get the other foot in the garage. They're not big companies. They're just kind of winging it. And then there are some companies who are thinking, hey, I want this to be a big company. And people don't know the difference. You know, I'll give you a good example. I was talking to someone and they were asking me to compare Royal Exclusive to Vertex. And my answer to them was Vertex actually sells product.
Yeah.
Later, chimp.
And they said, well, how can you say that? And I said, does Vertex sell direct off their website? And he said no. And I said, because they don't have to. They're
Yeah.
in Marine Depot and Bulk Reef Supply. You know, Royal Exclusive is a very small company.
Yeah.
In comparison. So, but people don't get that. There's this disconnect. For a long time, people used to talk about Premium Aquatics. You know, it was Marine Depot and then Premium Aquatics. And I'm like, Marine Depot has 50 employees. Premium Aquatics has 6.
Yeah.
They're not on the same level. So when I come to equipment and when it comes to foods, all of those things, I always go back to trying to find the company that's what they do, because they're going to be better at it.
Yeah.
Than a lot of these small aquarium companies, because most of these small aquarium companies are just a couple people working in a small little warehouse.
Yeah.
You know,
100% agree.
Especially food companies. They're just, I mean, you know, Hikari is huge. Hikari's huge. And they do a lot of fish breeding foods and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, Reed Mariculture, they do a lot of fish farms.
Yeah.
Are you know, and so they've studied the nutrition behind it.
What's that big mysis company called again?
The freshwater mysis.
No.
Mysis.
The PE.
Yeah, that's freshwater mysis.
They're freshwater
Remember what you
mysis.
said about giving marine fish freshwater?
Wait,
stuff?
they're freshwater mysis?
Yes.
So you know
PE mysis comes from a lake in Canada.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer the Hikari mysis, which is an ocean mysis.
That's interesting.
It's a much smaller mysis.
Yeah, it is a much smaller mysis. Because, like, so PE, like, here's the thing. I always thought PE mysis was saltwater mysis because of the smell of it.
No.
And because they always bragged about they're the only ones allowed to harvest at a certain size. So I'm just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never delved any deeper than that. That's really interesting. Because normally I feed Hikari. And every now and then I'll switch back over to PE. You know, and what I really want to try is the PE cyclopods. You ever see the really, really like super red? It normally comes in a 2-pack with PE mysis and these
Right.
red like cyclopods. Are those freshwater as well?
I do not believe so.
Yeah.
But the cyclopods,
I don't know if they're called cyclopods.
I don't. They're not harvesting them. See, what happens is a lot of these companies get together with other companies and produce a product together. So PE mysis harvests mysis.
Yeah.
It's a whole different company that is the one that's harvesting the cyclopes.
No, oh, sorry. It's called Calanus.
Right, but I'm just saying, they may call it something else, but it's typically one company that harvests that, where PE mysis is one company. So PE mysis sells the PE mysis to Reef Nutrition.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted PE mysis, so they put it in a bottle for them. There's and they sell it to other companies too, for their blended frozen foods and stuff. So that they're supplying a lot of companies with that PE mysis. But I just prefer to feed the Hikari because it's saltwater mysis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that your fish are going to die using PE, but I just believe in feeding them. I've always been told that the fish metabolize the omegas better if it's a saltwater omega.
Yeah. Yep.
And I believe in that, so I practice that.
Definitely do. It's kind of like having breast milk and cow's milk and keep giving your kid cow's milk from day one. It's just like, why wouldn't you just give them breast milk,
Well, yeah. But some just give them formula.
Yeah, and we all know how that goes. It stinks.
Well,
it stinks.
It may, but you also get some big superhuman babies out of it too.
Yeah.
So, technology.
Yep.
But you have to have someone studying it.
Yeah.
Not just winging it.
Yeah.
When
there's a lot of winging. There's a lot of winging.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll give you an example. Rod's Food. Rod's Food was winging it, but he before he produced it for the public, he was winging it. Because Rod was a clownfish breeder, and at the time when he was a clownfish breeder, nobody was making the food.
Yeah.
For breeding these fish, for rearing these fish. So he had to come up, trial and error, with a food that they could eat through every stage of their life.
Yeah.
So he did the research. And then what happens? You get the other companies like LRS who pop up and just, look, here's what's in his food. I'll just make it too. Now, I'm not saying LRS is bad, but I'm going to trust Rod's over his. That's just me.
Yeah, definitely hear you. I feel bad because I just picked up some LRS today.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. But the reality is he's the smaller company.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, because they hear a lot about LRS, but I can always tell who the small company is because which one does trade shows. Rod's comes to the trade show, he gets a booth. Larry comes to the trade show, pays his $10 to get in, and passes out business cards because he's cheap.
Yeah.
He can't afford to invest in his company.
Right. He can't afford a $1,000 booth.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So
I mean, he doesn't make bad food. I don't think it's just.
No, I don't think he makes bad food, but someone else did all the work first. Someone else did all the work for him. He didn't have to go through the trial and error. It's easy to look on the package and see, what works. Rod puts his ingredients on the package, and he doesn't hide anything. There's no proprietary stuff there, because that's what a real business does. So it's easy to get something similar. So that's just, those are kinds of things that that's the way my mind thinks when I'm thinking this hobby.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for the best, and the price of it doesn't always matter until it gets to the point that I can't afford it.
But yeah. Do you follow Tristan's Reef, Greg?
I do not.
So he
I'm
had
still
this video. He had this video, like, so he's like feeding a healthy amount of like live Fido that he's been culturing. And his rock nems started reproducing, I assume, sexually, and it's just crazy.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
I'll have to check that out. I'm still new to the YouTube game.
Yeah. No, I just found it so fascinating because I'm just like, it's not to sound like redundant or repetitive. I really think food is like the next frontier, man. It's just like, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, and all that temperature. It's just like, I think to get these things to like really act the way they act in nature it's food, man. Like, it really is food. Wait, did I just lose everybody? No. Greg, you're muted.
Yeah, here I am.
Oh.
I was muted because the dogs were making a lot of noise, so I
was
trying to mute in between talking.
Oh, okay.
And the other guys are muted too. Is that Jeeves is muted, and so is DM.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'm still new to the YouTube game and trying to figure out who to follow. I prefer the interaction. I mean, I really want to help people in this hobby. So So I mean, I guess if I had the time, if I was to do something, I would be probably more like Rico, where you just sit there and just answer people's questions. I'd love to do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Because I've studied this hobby for a long time. I've been in the hobby over 20 years. And I have to say I learned from some of the best reefers there ever were back in the day. So, I mean, they were my mentors. So I learned really quick.
Yeah.
Back 20 years ago, it was rare after 2 years of being in the hobby, you were even considering SPS.
Wow.
But, I live 15 minutes from Steve Tyree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, back then. So it was not a problem. And it was, I really learned quick. And with so many fish stores here, once I got hooked up with one who was not just trying to constantly sell me, he wanted me to be successful.
Yeah.
That was very, very helpful. But I running the fish club for the last 10 years, running the Reefapalooza shows for the last, 10 or so years, I mean, I've been part of them for the whole 15 years, but I've got I've done a lot of beta testing for companies, in the industry over the years. I've just done so much, and I love to share it because I think the more people that are successful, the more innovation we're going to see in this hobby.
Definitely.
And the better, I mean, I look at the livestock we're getting. The livestock we're getting, it used to be only Japan got this stuff. Japan is where all the best stuff went.
Yeah.
You know, and now we're getting these crazy. I mean, 5-color. I mean, here in the U.S., if you got a 2-color acro, 15 years ago, that was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that acro had 2 colors. So now we're getting acros with 5 colors.
Yeah.
But that was like stuff you only saw, coming from Japan, or going to Japan rather. So this hobby has changed so much as the more people that have gotten involved in this hobby. We don't have, in Europe there are so many people in the hobby simply because they're homebound. The weather's gloomy all the time. It's cold, and people really spend a lot of time in their home.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., we're on the go, so there's not, we don't have the density of reefers in most of the country.
Yeah.
I'm here in Southern California, where I got some of the best fish stores in the country because they all get to pick all the best stuff from the wholesalers before they even go out to the east.
Mm-hmm. Screw you.
It's luck, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That this is where I came up reefing. So, but yeah, I love to help people as much as I can with the hobby, and that's why constantly hear me saying, "Okay, does anybody got any questions?"
Yep. No, I definitely hear you. Yeah, I'm not here to help anybody.
I mean, discussion helps.
No,
Yeah.
it
That's what
absolutely
leads
does.
to ideas, and
There is no one here that can't say they didn't learn something from
I
from the
definitely
others.
learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, that's
Like,
how we learn.
It's like I think I am where I'm at solely because of YouTube. Like, I had a much rougher time on and this is why I gave up the hobby 6 years ago, is because forums, like, you know what I mean? It was just like,
right.
It was just harder. It was just so much harder on forums. Like, to validate something was a lot harder on forums.
Well, you know what? No, it's actually easy on the forums. If anyone who's ever been on the forums and seen my signature, which pisses people the hell off.
Yeah.
It says, "Be wary of advice coming from those who cannot show you the fruits of their success." If you follow that rule when you're on the forums, you will get good advice.
Yeah.
But talking to someone who else is failing and they're not willing to show you that they're doing something the right way, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's just the truth. And I don't understand. I sit there and I talk with these people, and I'm like, this is why you're failing. You guys are all listening to each other.
Yeah.
Sit there and tell me that a black box is as good as a Radion. Okay, you go ahead and you keep believing that. You keep believing that they're the same. They're not.
No, they're not the same. Not to say you can't have a great tank with Arctic Revives or
correct,
but you're going to burn more energy to do it. They're probably not going to be as colorful.
Exactly.
They're going to run hotter. They're not going to give you as long a burn life.
I will tell you the secret about Radions. You look at any of these big time SPS guys who have gone to Radions. The real reason they gone to Radions because Radions produce color that other LEDs don't. It's the magic LED. That's reality.
I think aren't Radions the only ones that emit like actual ultraviolet?
No. Everybody, if the big difference with the Radion is their choice of blue. They use what is called a deep blue LED. They don't use a royal blue like every other LED out there.
Yeah.
And big of a copycat industry as the aquatics industry is, I can't believe that they haven't. It's either they haven't figured it out, or they're not willing to pay the extra money, because that LED is about 3 times the price of a regular Cree. So, I mean, but it's the magic LED.
Yeah. Now, I believe the Orphics seem like they have a pretty good thing going, but they're not mainstream. They're expensive.
They're overpriced.
Yeah.
It's a black box in a pretty acrylic case. Okay, I've taken one apart.
The Orphics?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a black box in a pretty acrylic case. All it is, you have a piece of clear acrylic on the bottom. Then there's another piece of acrylic with holes drilled in it where the off-the-shelf optics go. They can say whatever the hell they want. I'm telling you what it is. Okay? It uses mostly Bridgelux LEDs.
Okay.
And they have different spectrums. They definitely have a wide variety of spectrums. And then there's that chicken wire, as I like to call it, that mesh that goes around, and they just cut a groove in the acrylic that this mesh fits in. This, they make a square, like it looks like a fencing material almost, and then they sandwich another piece of acrylic on top of that, and it's got 6 screws. That's all it is. There's no innovation there. It's been the same since the day they came out. But they have excelled in giving you a lot of LEDs and a lot of power. I mean, that thing's 230 watts. That's the magic.
Yeah.
It's 230 watts. And
Well, they're supposed to give a pretty good spectrum, right?
Well, yeah, because they've thrown every color LED under the sun in there.
Yeah. They have like cyan. Like, what the hell is cyan? Like,
because remember how I said it's a copycat industry? A while ago, cyan was the color. I'll give you an example.
I remember when cyan was a color versus just red.
Do you remember back when Orphec was ridiculing every LED company out there because they had green LEDs?
No, I don't.
Okay, so before this latest generation, they were ridiculing every company because green grows algae. It doesn't grow coral, and they were like, it's a waste. I don't know why these we have higher per because we're putting the power where it needs to be, in the blue and the red, and not in the green, yellow, and da 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 da. And what do they got now? Green LEDs. They're the big, that company. I despise that company because they started that company based on a pack of lies. Yeah. They were making stuff up. The guy who was the original rep for Orphec was writing, his college roommate was writing these articles and was going on these forums talking about how great these lights were.
Greg, what's your name on Reef to Reef, real quick?
G. Carroll. GCARROLL. So, I exposed. I mean, they were getting under my skin because they, I don't like a company that talks bad about another company to sell their product, especially when they're making stuff up.
Yeah.
So I researched them, and I found out that this guy who was writing these articles was the college. I found the link that they were college roommates together, and I'm like, oh, so you're the rep, and this guy who's writing all these articles talking about how important per is, and that Orphecs have more per than any other light, and all this science is coming from your college roommate. Okay, and I exposed all that. And that's why I took one apart. Because I wanted to see what was so special about it. And there wasn't. They were saying it had 120 degree optics. Really? It had 60 degree optics. That's what it had. You could get it with 40-degree optics or 60-degree optics, which is why the par was so insane directly below it.
Yeah.
That was it. Now they have like a 90-degree optics. They've gotten better over the years. The I don't know who's repping them now, but the guy who was prior to him, which was Rich, I can't think of his name, or Scott Rich. Scott Rich was their rep. He basically told me, he's like, all these changes that were made were based on your criticisms. He's like, they were listening, they were reading the forums, so they did do a lot to improve the LED. And then they've gone even farther with giving it more of a complete spectrum. But I think it's gotten to the point that the LEDs that they're putting in there, it's gotten to the point where it's gimmicky. They're just throwing so that they can say they have the widest spectrum.
Yeah.
Bottom line is Radeon is 60% blue. Only 40% of its LEDs are dedicated to colors other than blue. So that's why because that's what your corals are used to. They want blue. They love blue.
Yeah.
We don't get corals from the surf zone. None of the corals in our tank come from 10 feet of water. It's dangerous to collect corals in 10 feet of water because that's the surf zone. That's why we don't see those humulus corals and things like that in the industry, in the trade.
Why is it dangerous to get them?
Because the surf is breaking.
Oh, so it's dangerous to the people.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. They collect corals in 10 meters of water, 15 meters of water. They don't collect them in where the surf is pounding, and that's why we don't even get those species of corals anymore. It's very rare. We used to get them from Fiji because all of Fiji is shallow water, and so what they were doing was farming it, so they could do that. So that was why we were getting those species, but we don't even get those species from other places because it's dangerous.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And a lot of this comes from, knowing Walt Smith over the years, and knowing how they did things. Heck, we had a guy at one point in time in our club who had been keeping saltwater fish, since the 60s, I believe. I think it was the late 60s when he started keeping saltwater fish. And he was part of developing the diet of fish. And he said when they first started, they were taking crushed dog food. That's what they were feeding the fish with. Crushed dog food.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't know.
Yeah.
But these are, there's a lot of pioneers out there. I wouldn't say I'm best buddies with Steve Tyree anymore, but the guy's a pioneer.
Yeah.
Julian Sprung is a pioneer. Sanjay's a pioneer. Joe Caporata. These guys were in it way before it was cool. And they had to learn all these things for us to get to where we're at now, which is guys literally coming in the hobby and in the first year putting SPS in their tank.
Look at my 40. It's less than a year, and I've got a couple easier SPS.
I'm talking people who have only been in the hobby a year doing SPS.
Yeah.
There are people that literally get into this hobby because they saw an SPS tank and they wanted to keep SPS. And they're doing it. They're able to do it because we've learned so much from all of those people who were before us. So that's why I tell people, go to shows like Reefapalooza, MACNA, you're going to go see some of these speakers and you're going to learn something. And the reason I always say stay in the hotel is because those guys are staying in the hotel.
Right. You might get to see them in the lobby and talk with them.
have a drink with them, hang out all night with them. I mean, that's what happens at these shows. You know, you're going to learn so much from that opportunity if you ever get that chance. And I'm lucky because of doing, you know, now what's going to be 4 Reef Blues a year. I get to hang out with these speakers all the time, and I learn from them.
Yeah.
You know, because even though some people consider me an expert, I'm always thriving for information. I'm always trying to get more information and learn more. And I think everyone in this hobby owes it to their animals to do that. Don't get me wrong, I kill a lot of animals.
Don't we all?
Yeah, but that's part of learning.
Yeah.
You learn not to do that again.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like me, don't take a 3-month hiatus.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what kills most people's tanks is laziness.
Yeah.
And as you have to push through that laziness, you can't just forget about your tank and stop caring. Because you may catch, you know, only bad things happen fast in this hobby. And there's a lot of people that want instant gratification.
You know, it's funny you say that. I'm looking at your 25-gallon post right now, and somebody said, you know, did you misspeak? You know, talking about how you added bacteria, and then a couple days later got the tank running.
Oh yeah, I mean, I literally, what happened is I had a very, very a unbelievable buying opportunity to buy livestock. And I called up Dr. Tim and said, I need this tank cycled in 5 days. And he gave me instructions on what to do. Now, not everybody has Dr. Tim's cell phone number. So
Right.
Yeah. Wait, what did he tell you to do?
he told me to get his one and only and get the bacteria. I ordered it from Amazon. I dosed the bacteria. I dosed the ammonia, like it said, because everybody wants to throw a shrimp in there. Okay, well, shrimp is nice, but you know what? You got to wait till it breaks down before it actually does anything. Just put the straight ammonia in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cleanest, easiest way to do it.
I got crucified for using ammonia on my tank.
Yeah. It doesn't,
like the bottled ammonia?
Yeah, ammonia. Yeah. I can't remember what kind of ammonia it is. It's
he sells it. Dr. Tim sells it. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Jeeves,
Ammonia
AL asked
chloride?
Greg if you'd taken any other lights apart and what were your thoughts. Did you cover that already?
I have taken the radions apart. They're very professionally made. They do not look like a black box inside. I mean, it's organized because they've put a lot into a small package. And why I've taken the radions apart is simply to put on my diffuser. With the diffuser, you have to take the base plate off and then put a new base plate on.
Sorry, I just wanted to cover that question. I just saw it.
So, let's see, what else have I taken? I mean, I've taken several metal halide fixtures apart.
What about Kessels?
Kessels I have not taken apart, but based on the size of the package, it's put together in a very professional way. But let's not forget, there is no bigger company in the entire aquarium industry than Kessel when it comes to lighting.
Got it.
Because Kessel is Dicon fiber optics.
Yeah, they do optics and lights very well.
Yeah.
They have government contracts, fiber optic cable. I mean, this is what they do. They do light. They have a campus, not a building, not a facility. They have a campus in Silicon Valley. So this is big time stuff here. They are the only company that makes, I don't care what Orfec says, Orfec doesn't make LEDs, somebody's making it for them. Okay, when you order, the owner of Orifec lives in Brazil. When you order an Orifec, that sucker comes straight from China, unless you get it from BRS. So if you order from them, it comes straight from China. Kessel makes their own LEDs. They make the actual diodes. They have the ability to do whatever they want. There's nothing stopping them.
Yeah.
They have all the money behind them if they want to use it.
I've always liked that about Kessel's, the fact that you can tweak the color, but it still stays within that Goldilocks zone. Like,
so,
yeah.
Of the two, which do you think are better?
No
Kessel
comparison.
Radian.
No comparison, Radeon. No comparison.
Really?
They're already telling you what spectrum to use if you want the best growth and color.
Yeah.
Okay. Kessels are very good. They're idiot proof, but you can't get the things you can get out of it. If you ever go to a reef show, meaning you can't get the same colors out of it. The corals don't react the same. They look good. They don't look the same.
Okay.
They're gonna have more pop under a radio.
Do you think that there is a advantage to making LEDs idiot proof?
Absolutely. There's a lot of idiots
because
out there.
There's
a lot of people who can't resist tweaking.
Yeah, and I really, really, Radions are definitely on my list down the line.
Basically, I came home. I went to. I contacted the guys at Worldwide Corals. He emailed me their profile.
Yeah.
I tweaked it to the hours of my liking, changed a couple little things, and I've left it alone.
Yeah.
I made it look the best to my eye in the way I like to see my tank, which is predominantly all blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like a smidgen of white.
No. It gets the white during the day. It gets the traditional AB plus during the day, but in the evenings when I come home, it's blue.
Okay.
So I get to see the corals pop, and I leave it like that because I can resist making a tweak every day. There's a lot of people who cannot resist they can't keep their hands out of the tank.
Yeah.
They're constantly always screwing with things. Your tank looks the best. If you can maintain your calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium, and your salinity and all of that stuff, if all that's under control, your tank will look the best. The more you stop messing with it. The corals, even if they don't like the spectrum at first, they'll get to like it.
Yeah.
They'll adapt. Corals are adaptable. LEDs, they don't have as much punch as metal halides did. And
with a little bit different spectrum setup, right?
With a little bit different spectrum setup, but because they don't produce the heat, we can run an LED for 12 hours. We couldn't do that with a metal halide. And your tank be 90 degrees by the end of the day.
That's what I wrote. Well, that's my total lighting cycle is about 12 hours.
Yeah.
With about 10-hour T5.
Right. With my LEDs, they're on for 13 hours a day.
So this is a math question. What's your thoughts on T5 versus LED? Let's say for a 40 breeder. Let's restrict the tank size. 40 breeder.
What am I keeping?
Or a 75 SPS tank.
Okay. And what matters more, growth or color?
I guess both. If you want the best of both combination.
And is this color to your eye or color to a picture? Ooh. See, all these things matter.
Okay, we'll go through them all for me because that's some of the stuff I'm still learning on.
So T5s, corals look better in a picture than they do in person.
Okay.
That's just fact. LED is very hard to take a picture with.
Right, because of the heavy blue wash, right?
Not just the heavy blue wash, but the contrast. the contrast of colors is such a wide range. A camera has a hard time catching it. Also, our eye is more sensitive to the green-yellow spectrum. So when you look at an LED, you may see white. Your camera is the truth detector.
Gotcha.
It sees nothing but blue. Even a cool white LED, as white as it looks, when you take a picture, it's blue.
It's blue.
Because it is a blue LED. It's just got a phosphorus coating over it, you know, to fool it to look white to our eye. So T5s create, I think, bushier corals because you're getting light from multiple angles. Now, can you replicate that with LED? Absolutely, if you got enough of them.
Right. You add more, space them out, diffusers, things like that.
You got the money. You can in the wherewithal, you can absolutely get those kinds of results from them. I mean, my new tank is going to be 5 feet by 36. I'm going to have 6 XR30s on it. I'm going to have no problem with coverage.
Right.
There's no issue there. You know, but what would the average reefer do? He'd try to use 3. Well, guess what? You're better off using a T5 unit. If you're going to skimp on the light with LED, my choice is to always tell you to go ahead and go T5 or go a hybrid of T5 and LED.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I didn't have 6 radions, I might go 4 with the Aquatic Life fixture.
Because, I mean, I like my T5s. I get good growth out of them. I have a couple LED bars to add a little bit of blue, you know, and give it a little more par. But that's just it. I'm getting fantastic growth out of it.
Yeah. No, you're going to get fantastic growth because the light is diffused and it's coming from all sides at all times. You don't have the shimmer. The corals need to be optimal. They need a specific amount of light in total. Now, you can do what I used to do, which was blast them with metal halide for 6 hours. That was still enough to get them into that photoinhibition state to where they no longer needed any light for photosynthesis. 6 hours was enough.
Mm-hmm.
With LED, because it's so much less par, you know what? 12 hours, 10 hours. You're going to have to go longer. And that's the same way you do it with T5. Most people don't run T5 for 4 hours, 6 hours. But you heard people running 4 hours, 6 hours with metal halide because it was more light. It really was. And not everybody who used metal halide.
TMG, you sleeping?
Same. Yeah, he's out.
Hold on. I'm going to mute him.
Okay. Not every, metal halide was one of those light fixtures that the reflectors mattered more than anything else.
Right.
So when someone went on eBay or Amazon and bought a metal halide fixture, you don't know what you were getting. Hamilton. That was just copies of other light fixtures that were out there. There's nothing special about them. But where did we go when we wanted to find the best metal halide reflectors? We went to the horticulture industry. Because guess what? They did research.
Right.
They did the research. When
I thought about halides for this tank, and I was advised against it strictly because of the heat.
Yes. The heat is there. There are ways to work against it, and the main one is to have another source of light with it to extend your light photo period, but only run the metal halides for long enough that your tank can stand the heat.
Gotcha.
Open canopy. That was another thing. My last tank, I had what looked like a canopy, but anybody who was over 6 foot tall would notice that there was no lid on my canopy. It looked like it had a lid, but it didn't. It was just a lip to kind of give it that look. Heat rises. I could run my metal halides 10 hours. My tank never got above 79 degrees. and I didn't have a chiller. But I designed a light. I designed the light to be able to disperse the heat.
Right.
You know, I had the glass on the reflectors so that some of that heat could vent out the top of the reflector, because they were vented. They were horticulture lights. They came from Sunlight Supply. That's the way they made their lights, because that's the way they make them in the horticulture industry.
Harper, as long as you run them long enough. Dev actually did that. Yeah, he did a good video that gets a little more scientific on that a while back. And it has to do with energy, total energy absorbed.
Yep.
So the way I thought about it was calories. If you have to take in 2,000 calories a day to live, does it matter if you take it in 6 hours or in 12 hours?
Exactly.
It doesn't, as long as you take in 2,000 calories.
Exactly.
Not factoring in different metabolisms and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So yeah, that's basically what your job is. With SPS. If you want them to be colored, you have to give it enough light to keep the brown zooxanthellae from getting too populous. Because when you don't have enough light, the coral takes in more brown zooxanthellae so that it can have more energy to live. When you get a lot of light, it doesn't need as much to live.
Right.
So it expels it, and then you see the pigments. And then you start seeing color pigments because the coral is trying to protect itself from that color. And that's where LEDs excelled, because they could pick the spectrum. And so I like LED, I like T5, I like metal halide, but the facts remain that metal halide and T5 are dead forms of technology. They're not getting any better.
Right. There's no reason to improve them. The LEDs are such an improvement. They're still effective, but
correct.
They're not going to advance.
Correct. They're not going to advance. So when you want to tweak colors, it's harder to do with T5.
Yeah.
It's harder to do with metal halide. But what they have is great. But, you know, I got a friend. You guys have ever been on the forums and seen Schnitzel Reef?
I don't get on reef to reef too much.
Okay.
I probably need to start.
Okay. He's got a beautiful SPS tank. But I've been to his house. It looks better in pictures because I took pictures. I was like, dang, these pictures came out really good. Every T5 tank I've ever shot with my SLR, pictures came out phenomenal. LEDs, not the greatest. Although Max Spec lights.
The razors,
good pictures. Good pictures. I tell you, that's the one Chinese LED that I can say I trust in, because they've been making LED lights for as long as AI and Ecotech.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in this business for a long time. You know, they're the Max Spec is the Ecotech of China. They are innovators. They are not copycats.
Gotcha. Yeah, see me, I just can't afford to put a pair of radians over a tank.
No.
Or even a single radian. If I was going to, I would probably go with the hydros. It's a 40B.
It's a 40 breeder. So what are the dimensions of that? 4 feet long?
36, 18, and then it's 16 deep. So it's very shallow.
Yeah. So now, a Radion, I would... Okay, front to back is how much again? 18?
18. 36 by 18 is the footprint.
Now, see, I wouldn't tell you to get a Radion. I would tell you to go with AI.
The 226s? Or a single 52 and raise it?
I would go... No. Definitely 26s. The reason why more is better. Spreading them out.
Right.
Spread out the point source.
So a lot of people I've seen run primes on these.
Yeah, you could run primes, but primes makes it a little harder, and it gets more expensive. But
Yeah,
if
you
you
got
could,
to run 3 of them.
yeah, if you could run 226s with the thoughts of someday getting a third. See, that's the advantage of when you do something like that. You can start off with 2,
Yeah.
and then you can add a third. But you know, with Ecotech, it makes it easy because an XR15 is exactly half the price of an XR30. It's exactly half. So it doesn't matter which one you choose,
Mm-hmm.
But you can do XR15s and spread them out a little
Right.
better and get away with less overall money and still get phenomenal coverage.
Yeah. I know that's what Dev's doing. He's going with, 5 XR15s on his Peninsula?
There is a downside to that, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's 5 power supplies.
Oh, yeah.
And you gotta put them somewhere. So yeah, there's always upsides and downsides. But if I'm trying to cover a small tank, I'm trying to go with more fixtures than one and raise it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get that cross angle and you get those effects that a T5 system gives you.
Gotcha.
You start off with 226s where the pucks are linear with the tank, and then if you can get yourself a third, then you turn them perpendicular to the tank.
Right.
So that you get a little wider. There's things like that you do that'll make things better for you.
So I'd like to eventually have this, and I mean, I'd love to have a big reef, but I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Partially my wife, partially the way I am. I'd rather set up another 40 breeder because I can set them up for $100 for the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Tank and stand from Petco. I've got the Petco metal stand. Throw some plywood over it to cover it.
Right.
Build a canopy. The only thing that I have to spend money on really is sump and skimmer.
Right.
And go with a peninsula style. Maybe build a plywood stand for it to make it nicer, But I'd rather have 2 side-by-side 40Bs, or maybe this one just like it is sideways, and then a peninsula style SPS bare bottom one.
Right. Now, I would say if I wasn't such an equipment geek, I would consider running a refugium only.
Yeah.
And skip out on the skimmer.
Really?
But I've been part of developing so many skimmers, I like them. But yeah, I mean, there's so many benefits to running an algae refugium, and a lot of people. But here's the thing: if you're gonna go an algae refugium, go all the way.
Yeah, go with huge refugium.
Well, not just huge, a lot of light. A lot of people looked at that Bulk Reef Supply video that they did where they compared the different lights.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were saying, oh, well, to a certain point, they all did the same. The real cheap ones didn't grow much algae, but some of the other ones, grew more. But what they didn't realize, the biggest factor, was the pH in those tanks. And it was directly correlated with how much wattage those lights were.
Right.
And the one that was running the Kessel 380, the H380 or 360, whatever it was, the pH in that tank was 9.0.
Jesus. Isn't that dangerous at that level?
But remember, that's going to be feeding your tank. So what that means is it's going to raise the pH in your tank. Remember,
right, because that was just a refugium.
Right. Remember, we talk about stability. Okay, so you run that on a reverse daylight cycle, which is what Ryan does on the BRS 160.
Mhm.
Okay, so that means at night your pH isn't dropping. That's stability.
Right.
That's a big advantage. That's a big advantage. And we already know that corals calcify quicker with high pH. So that's why I would say that I think that is an excellent way to go.
See, if
Now,
I did another 40 breeder like you're talking about, what I would probably do is buy a 29 gallon.
uh-huh.
So another $30, and do a single bubble trap. Whatever, the last, 4 inches of the tank, 5 inches of the tank,
Yep.
where I could put the same thing I have here, a DCT 4000. And that would leave me with a 26 by 12 and a half, or let's say 25 by 12 and a half, however many inches deep refugium.
Right.
So if we ran it halfway, let's say.
So I would even consider not running like a Kessel H380 and getting yourself some 24-inch T5 fixture and running some horticulture bulbs. If you're gonna do a linear tank like that,
Right.
there's no sense in buying a 380. I mean, a 380 is going to cast a 24 by 24 inch.
I mean, what's your opinion on the Chinese plant grow lights? Not the little cheapo one they use. They use the panel, whatever, 39 watt, but some of the more powerful ones.
I mean, it's directly rated. It's directly related to the amount of power you're putting over the light.
Okay.
I mean, over the tank. So yes, if you're getting the powerful ones, they're going to work.
Right.
But there is no, as I like to say, there is no magic in lights. People acted like LEDs were so efficient. Yeah, but now we run them longer.
Right.
There's no magic there. I'm about to put, over my 5-foot tank, let's see, 180 times 6. I would have lit this tank with 3 250s. Metal halides. So I would have put less wattage over this tank had I gone metal halides.
Right.
So, and you look at Sanjay, same thing. Sanjay has more light on his 500-gallon tank with LED than he had, more power than he did when he had metal halide. So those are all things you got to take in. The hobby is simple. It's only as hard as you want to make it on yourself. And when you don't take all these things into consideration, you're making the hobby hard.
Right.
And it's the little things that matter. It's not how much skimmate your tank, your skimmer pulls. It's how much air it's interjecting into the water, keeping your pH up. That's more important in my book. I'm going to take a skimmer that does more air.
Right. Now, if you've got a heavy stock tank and have feed heavy, then the waste removal is probably more important.
Correct.
If you don't know how to balance that.
Correct. I mean, my 25 gallon, I'm feeding approximately what would be approximately 2 cubes every other day.
Okay.
I have a pipefish and a goby. Those are my only fish. I'm feeding the corals that much a day.
Right. The corals are taking a lot of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can input a ton of food if the tank is done properly. Now, I do dose Microbacter 7 because I understand the bacterial process.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend that a noob follow me and start blindly dosing. I always tell people...
I do that. I just do it once a week.
I tell people, don't dose bacteria unless you know exactly how bacteria works. if you don't know how it works, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
a lot of people who dose it, they dose it because they heard it gets rid of phosphates. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've helped people who were running some sort of bacterial system or bio pellets or whatever, and or some sort of carbon dosing, and said, "Ah, it didn't work. It didn't work for my nitrates. My phosphates were down, but my nitrates were just sky high."
Mm-hmm.
You know what my answer to that is? Stop running GFO.
Right. Let it balance
You know,
out and come down together.
do you know exactly? How do I know they're running GFO? Because that's the only way that could happen. They're running some sort of phosphate reducer in conjunction. And if you don't understand that you have to have both for bacteria to work, you're never going to succeed. And there's a lot of people out there because they're complicating things beyond their knowledge. And I just tell people, just go back to basics. Just go back to basics. Start adding things after you've succeeded with being good at the basics. You know, any of you guys who have ever seen, Bulk Reef Supply is really exposing us to these worldwide coral tanks. But, when you look at them, and it was kind of funny when they first were told, oh, yeah, they're going to be featuring the worldwide coral tanks. And the guys at the worldwide corals were like, they're talking about making this a multi-part series. He's all, I can tell them how these tanks are in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it has a big sump. Every tank has a big sump. It has a protein skimmer and a pump. That's it.
Right.
There ain't nothing else in there. They occasionally run carbon when they feel the water needs it. Just periodic, not religiously running carbon, just occasionally.
Right. I usually leave it in my 40 all the time, but I change it once a month, so it only works once a month for a few days.
Yeah, it only works. Its lifespan's only maybe 2-3 days.
Right. So that's why I just swap it out every month.
Yeah.
Leaving it in there is just more of the laziness aspect of it. It doesn't hurt anything to leave it.
No, it doesn't hurt anything. It just becomes another form that bacteria can colonize. It just is another media. So it's okay.
I've had some people ask me, well, doesn't it start leaching it back out once it's used? No.
Yeah. But those guys don't. That's it. It's that simple. And they run a calcium reactor on every tank.
Yeah, they have the demand for it.
Right.
I'd be wasting my money on a calcium reactor with what I have. Now, where I'm at right now.
So a friend of mine had an amazing 50-gallon SPS tank.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody expected that. They're like, what products are you dosing? And he said, I don't dose, I have a calcium reactor. It was an SPS tank, a 50-gallon cube. And he had the little Aquamax calcium reactor, the little hang-on calcium reactor.
I don't think they make that one anymore, do they?
I think they do. I don't know, though.
I have to look at it. Because, I'm not to that point. I'm mostly LPS. I have a mini colony of green digitata. I have a, 4x5 piece of Setosa. And then I have a little 1.5-inch frag of staghorn and a Monty Cap. Monty Cap, what else do I have in here? Posilopora. Okay. 2-inch frag of Posilopora. Couple torches, Galaxia, Lobo, Duncans, couple hammers and frog spawns and other euphyllias, and then my few acans, zoas. Right. So what I'm actually in the process of, I have a Pico over here cycling. I'm going to put all my softies in. Big green toadstool.
Yeah.
And I've got my zoas I'm going to put in where they can benefit from having a little bit dirtier water in that Pico.
Well, not just that, but they don't come. Softies are not out on the open reef. They're in lagoons.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to the same water, and they also put out toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so in those cases, yes, you do need to run. You need to keep that carbon in there.
Yeah.
That carbon actually will work a little bit for those toxins and helping out with those.
And that's why I'm trying to get them all into here. Now, my only problem is I have some mushrooms on the main rockwork that I'm not going to be able to get out, I don't think.
Mushrooms are fine.
I thought they released the toxins too.
Not to the same degree that leathers and
Okay.
cold corals and things like that do.
Okay. I'm going to try to get, I have a nice green Rhodactus. I'm going to try to get off the rock. I think I can get him. He's big enough where I can actually get a handle on him. And because, you know, he's been moving because he's in a spot where there's direct light now that I have this 4-bulb T5 and these LED bars. And so he's been kind of crawling. So what I've read, what I understand is that they're kind of like NEMs.
Right.
You can actually get them to release sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some fresh carbon and then try to get him to release. That way, if he does start releasing toxins, I'll at least have the fresh carbon running.
Wow. Yeah, I had a mushroom release. I have no idea where he's at. I'm a little upset because I watched my friend sell one for $800. Yeah.
I've got some. I don't have anything like that. I've got a neon green Rhodactus, and I've got a blue Discosoma that's split into about 6, and are moved and left the babies. And they were pretty good size. I mean, a few of them were the size of a quarter, a few of them the size of a nickel, and now the biggest any of them get is the size of a dime. You know, they're getting light, high flow, very, very clean water. So
they don't like that.
No.
Get them somewhere with some low light, because mushrooms get a lot bigger when they get less light. And the reason why is because they're trying to maximize the area to collect light.
Right.
You know, so.
And that's.
I can. Those blue mushrooms though can be worth some bucks. Some people like those things.
The blue Discosomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can get them off the rock, I don't know if I can get them off the rock. I know there's one of them that's on a little peak where I can probably get some bone cutters. Or if not, I can definitely get a pair of dikes down in there and get it.
Right.
The other ones are pretty sunk in. I'd have to try and pry them. I mean, can you scrape them?
No,
or will you kill them?
Well, you probably won't kill them, but I would rather break the entire rock apart to get them.
Yeah, I can't do that. It's the main support for my main rock work, and it's all acrylic and rotted together.
Okay, yeah.
Rotted and putty. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's not good. So yeah, no, I'd rather. That's what we would do. I mean, here we do swap and trade a lot of corals, sell a lot of corals. I mean, that's what I've been doing with the acans. I've been buying colonies, coloring them up, and I mean, because once they're happy and they're being fed, they change color a lot of times, and plump up, and all of a sudden now they're worth something, and other people want them.
Around here, it seems like all anybody wants are SPS.
Yeah, and that happens through the middle. There's a lot more people that would want SPS from me than would want LPS, from me. But
I don't have LPS.
I don't have any SPS right now, so I'm basically I'm getting you get the brownouts, the stuff that doesn't look grade A. You put them under the radions, you feed the hell out of them, and hit them with a lot of light, and they change colors.
Yeah,
and they become grade A or ultra, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
I got a few that I didn't pay that much for them. And frickin' people are offering me insane amounts of money. They're offering more. They're offering more per polyp than I paid for 2 of them. 2 colonies.
Jesus. My next purchase is I want the Forest Fire Digitata.
Okay. I've never been into Montes. myself.
I just like the way that the digitatas grow.
Yeah, they are cool.
I like the bird nests. They weave back together, and I like the digitata the way that they kind of stump, split, grow, and then they'll grow back together. And
Right.
ALS, what do you think about using tap water?
Hell no. Absolutely not.
I agree. On a softy only tank, man, whatever.
Maybe. On a fish-only tank, yes. But on a reef tank, no. And the reason is because you get rid of the chlorine, that's fine. But even fresh water, if it's not RO or DI'd, it has elements. It has calcium. It has, iron. It has all these elements.
Fluoride, copper, arsenic. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff in tap water.
So when you then mix that with a salt mix, you end up with odd, elevated elements because you already had additional elements. You may have had 100 parts calcium in your water, just for say. And then now all of a sudden you have 500 parts of calcium now that you've added salt to it. It's just not a good recipe for maintaining good water quality, and not from the standpoint of water being dirty, just the fact that your levels are going to be out of whack. So I would stay away from that. At least use RO. I don't, at the moment on my 25, I just use RO. I have a RO that feeds my refrigerator, and I literally get water out of the refrigerator dispenser.
So you don't worry too much about zero TDS on a simpler tank, just as long as it's fairly low.
As long as it's fairly low, yes. That's all you really. That's all that concerns me. Zero TDS. I think it's a little going overboard, but it's great practice. I wouldn't tell somebody not to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's my RODI puts out zero TDS, but like the other day I had run a little too much, and so I had a brute with 10 gallons in it, and it sat there. I never put the lid on it. It sat for about a week, 2 weeks, something like that. Mm-hmm. And the other day I needed some water. I was like, oh, let me see, and I stuck my TDS meter in there, and it was 7. I was like, no, let's just dump it.
Nah, it would have been fine. I wouldn't have worried about it. Hey, I gotta go to bed. I gotta be up in 7 hours.
Yeah, that's fine.
To work. So, good night.
Yes, sir. I'll catch you later. Then I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, AL, Death Mage. Anybody else who's still hanging around? Greg, thank you for coming and chatting.
No problem.
Everybody else, have a good night and take it easy.